loaded with weapons, backed up and ready to go. Out of some great sights out by the roadside, a place that nobody knows. Sound of gunfire off in the distance, I'm getting used to it now. I've lived in a brownstone, lived in the ghetto, I lived all over this town. This ain't no party, this ain't no disco, this ain't no fooling around. This ain't no lights in, all the light jolly, this ain't no fooling around. Look for a message, shoot a receiver, look for an answer someday. I got 2 passports, a couple of visas, I only roam today. I'm on the inside of guns and loaded, everything ready to roll. I sleep in the daytime, I work in the nighttime, I might not ever get home. This ain't no party, this ain't no disco, this ain't no fooling around. This ain't no fun club, this ain't a Jimmy, I ain't got time for that now, Jimmy time.
What is that? This ain't no fooling around. No time for dancing or smooching. Ain't got time for that now. What about Houston? What about Detroit? What about Pittsburgh, PA? You ought to know not to stand by the windows. Somebody see you up there. I got some groceries, some peanut butter, I guess a couple of days. I ain't got no speakers, I ain't got no headphones, got no records to play. Why go to college? Why go to night school? I've been different this time. Not a letter, not a postcard, not a nothing at all. This ain't no party, this ain't no disco, this ain't no fooling around. I wanna hold you, I wanna kiss you. Tougher than now. So enchanted, the big old flower, that we've been in with the crowd. We got computers with tapping for that, you know that ain't allowed. We dress like students, we dress like Howard, about a suit and a tie. I changed my hair now so many times, I don't know what I look like. You made me shiver, I feel so tender. We make a pretty good team. Don't get exhausted, I got a little something here. You ought to get you some sleep. We got our notebooks, work out our notebooks. They won't keep us alive. Matches are burning, and runs are burning. Lord, and it's a fire.
All right, welcome. How's everybody doing this evening? Hope you all are doing well. Ready for a fun evening? Absolutely. Happy to see you guys here. How's it going? Sheeple Hunter first. Jacob Castro second. All right. Hey, Rabbit, how you doing? Welcome. Talking Trash and Truth. Welcome. How's everybody doing this evening, this lovely Saturday night, winning Saturday night? You are here. This is the members rules week because members rule here. That's right. I think that there are a lot of good things and bad things about YouTube, but I think one of the good things is the member section. So I plan on making the most of that now that I have access to it. You will be getting all kinds of content other people will not be getting, as you've probably already seen if you're in the winner circle. So consider joining the winner circle today, where it will be of value. I promise you that. You will enjoy what you get out of this. I will make it my point to make this a great experience for you. I promise you that. Hey, Cool Frog, how you doing? All right, so without further ado, just let me get something straight here, and we'll bring on our guests. Now, this is something pretty unique here, in that this is a crowd request, right? This is a request. We took a request from the crowd, and somehow this got all managed, and we were brought together here. And we had a miss there at the first time. And that's no big deal there because we got the redo right on the next week. So you know how we do it here, right? Here comes the intro.
Got a Bible in her right hand, hat in her left. Gonna make it do right, make me do your best. Every nation looking after you. Every nation, Jesus told her to. She said, I am Jesus' bulldog. People listen to me. Gonna make you live right. Fall down on your knees. Every nation looking after you. Every nation, Jesus told her to.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Radix, Verum. Welcome.
I love it. Thank you.
You got it, man. We're gonna have fun here for sure.
That
One
was
day I'll
silly.
get the right. Yeah, it's all about having fun. One day I'll get the outro right where I just have it switched perfectly, but you know,
it's hard.
yeah. But anyways, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We were evidently destined to meet. So
yeah, apparently.
Absolutely. Well, let me introduce myself first, since we haven't actually officially met, and we're talking backstage. So she doesn't know much about me at all either. So this is Winning Reality. I'm just an idea, but I do my best. And what we do here is we
you're like Antifa, just an idea.
Just an idea, but not like Antifa. I'm a good idea. See?
Okay.
I'm a good idea. And what we do here is we promote something called solution culture, which is changing the way people think and act in terms of their own personal power and their ways to actually make real solutions happen in their lives and in the community around them, right? Mm-hmm. So getting out of the mindset of just consuming information and becoming aware and talking about it into the more, okay, now that we understand and we've done the research, let's start to make the considerations and the decisions we need to move forward and actually help weed out the corruption that's in the system and bring about a fair playing field as best we possibly can for a better future for our kids and so on.
Hopefully.
So
Yeah, that's
hopefully
the goal.
that's the goal. And the whole idea is that we go about this by bringing the light of truth to unrig the game, and unrigging the game removes the enablement from those who do corrupt it.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of layers to go through with that. And so we focus on the root cause issues, the big root cause issues, and we talk about the root cause solutions to those and how we can actually take some of those into our own hands. Like, we don't always need to wait or should wait for some government official or somebody that we elect to do things for us. Like, that's not the way it works. They have some responsibility, but we have a lot of responsibility on our hands as well to maintain freedom and liberty in this world. So
yes, I think
there's
that's
so much to
true.
get through.
I also think, that I think of the government as like a big DMV a lot of the times. Just think about your experience, your last experience at the DMV. How was that? Was it efficient? Was it quick? Was it competent? Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other half of this channel is, I do kind of like a variety of things. I like to be entertaining, so I do the parody stuff, and I've been doing a long series, a parody of LawTube and the enemies of LawTube, if you will. It's just representative of cancel culture, really, and that and so it's been kind of an adventure. It's also, the whole idea of it was to have some fun and trying to get people out of the drama of life and kind of a place to escape. So I created this universe called the Lawtainment universe, and in that universe, people can do things like play the fiddle when they never played it before, right? So
there we go.
Right? Yeah, you can do anything, right? So, but it's a good place of good vibes, and the only rule of that universe is there's no petty drama. So everything's real. The drama is real. The conflicts are the real conflicts, but there's no like petty drama. So everybody just kind of gets along, helps each other out, and then there's always the bad guys who are trying to stop people that are like that. So it's really kind of a plain A-B duality kind of thing. But that's led us down this road of and I incorporate music because like I said, I'm a musician and I've done music for a very long time, and not that I'm as active as I used to be, but I was heavy deep into the music industry at one point. And so I have to have that as part of what I do here too. So that's how I kind of get my music out, if you will, the music side of me. And that'll just keep growing as I start to do my own stuff and kind of move into this new AI world where I can do things like reface and voice coin and things like that, which is like some of my latest stuff.
It's
like
so
that.
Wild.
Yeah.
Like the deep fakes and stuff,
Yeah. There's you can kind of like, it's weird when you're doing it, you kind of look at it like, okay, how can I make this work, right? And then you want to make it look as clean and real as possible so people forget what they're looking at, right? Mm-hmm. So they're like, okay, I'm seeing something completely new here, and I don't even realize that it's refaced anymore, and I don't realize that I'm just kind of snapped into it. So if you can get to that point, I think you kind of reach the idea there, and you can create brand new stuff that people kind of like, wow, it was this, but now it's really like this. It's like, here's 16 candles, but now it looks more like in Tokyo Grift, and these guys having this adventure, and the people that are it, and it's funny, it's fun. We gotta have some fun. So wherever the wave takes me, I ride it, and I've been doing that. And then I'm also going to be starting a couple new shows up. At least one of them is going to be kind of, I guess it's going to be temporary or weekly, like driving an 18-wheeler across America with my friend TR, who's actually driving the truck. We just sit there and we talk, and he's trying to start his own channel. So we're trying to get him going on that. We've done one stream together. We're going to do another one Monday night when he drives again. That's a lot of fun. I used to be on the road. To me, it's like traveling on the road again. And so I'm really digging it. I feel like I'm back in the van or back on the bus.
It's so weird. Yeah, that's got to be interesting.
Yeah, it's great. You can talk about things. We do the maps, so people like, you're learning where you're going, you're seeing things. It's a lot of fun.
That's actually kind of cool because everybody's so dependent on GPS now. It wasn't that long ago that people had to actually know where they were going, or like have to buy a map and use a map to navigate.
Yeah.
Which I just think is wild.
That's how I used to do my job. Like when I was doing like tour managing, I was like doing it like that. And then the GPS stuff came in on the tail end of it. So then we kind of moved up, and that was like some big upgrade. And that though
Wow.
I used to think about, like, we had cell phones, and I used to think about, dang, what was it like back in the day when you all had to stop and use payphones? And my boss was like, well, we
Yeah.
had a lot of quarters and dimes with us.
My
They
gosh,
stopped me.
payphones. Can you guys remember freaking payphones?
I saw one the other day, and I was like, you know what I noticed? I stopped and I noticed, and I looked at it. You know what's the price has never changed on? The cost of a telephone call from a payphone. It's
Yeah.
still like quarters and dimes and nickels. It's like nothing's changed. How come that
Yeah.
price is so stable? I wanna know.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Technology changes so fast, man. It really does. It's pretty
it
scary
does.
when you think about like what's the next, 10, 20 years going to bring us. I have no
Rapid
idea.
change.
Yeah.
Rapid
Yeah.
change. Yeah. I think rapid change. I'm in the technology field as well. Been there for a good career, and I just noticed that there's everything can be seen in waves and curves. I think in a lot of ways, right? So this big growth of, like, I was there like when the .com bubble was forming, right? And like we came off of, really what that was is us coming off a Unix kind of like command line like environment for the internet, and moving over to a GUI face, like a GUI interface environment, right? So that launched the .com boom, where people were like, really tech started like rising up in the world. That was the big tech rise of the tech.
Oh my gosh. What do you think about the dead internet theory?
Well, I think that, it's funny though. I think that if everything was unplugged, we'd find a way to make it all work, and a lot faster than we give ourselves credit for.
I mean, the idea that like the old internet was replaced or something, like if you remember back in the day when you went online and you were like searching for something, you could find like relevant search results. You know what I mean? Like that were actually responsive to what you were looking for. Like I remember you could find these like obscure websites, but that like had good information on them and stuff like that. And a lot of stuff was done like on forums and stuff back in the day. And now it's like you go and you type into like search engines and you look for stuff, and all you get is like mainstream sources, but they'll say that there's tons of like search results that you can search through. You're supposed to be able to, but once you get to like page 3 or 4, it just kind of like loops again, and it's the same mainstream media sources for stuff. It's very rare that you find something that like is actually what you're looking for, that isn't this like corporatized thing. And so it's just like, well, what happened to all of the old internet infrastructure? What happened to all of these like websites that were around in the 90s? Is it just that people aren't maintaining them, so they disappear? Like, I don't know. It just feels like the internet
a lot
has
of times
changed.
there's abandoned. It comes down to the domains and the IP addresses, right? So who's holding those, and who still has those, and what are they doing with them? Some places have been around forever and still look like some websites still look like the 90s, like, they're still out there, right? I can think of a gentleman who has a few that look like that right now. It's just really comes down to the domain ownership. You could have a domain out there forever that's, you made 10 years ago. It's going to look the same, act the same, be the same. Where it falls in the algorithm is going to depend on, the algorithm criteria and how often it's being accessed and updated and so on. I guess that's part of it too. What they did was they kind of decided that the algorithm is really what kind of took over in that realm, right? So to manage the amount of data and to try to give a more personalized experience, they went into things like, the algorithms and dynamic contents and personalization and so on. So these kind of technologies drove it into this kind of like, okay, so how do we get you the content you want, right? And this goes into corporate as well as personal. So when you're talking about the space of like marketing and sales, there's still a lot of legitimate business that's going on, email to landing page to customer, right? And that databases are still being maintained. So what they're trying to do with things like marketing automation is they're trying to pinpoint your desires of like if in that world. So say you're like you're HP and you sell big data products, right? You want to be able to reach CEOs and vice presidents who make buying decisions and to get them interested in your product. So when they come around to upgrading their systems, which you would have some kind of like knowledge of in terms of how long they till their last purchase or whatever, where their technology lie, then perhaps in a very advanced system you could do that. But then once you be able to reach them, but you don't want to reach them with a bunch of noise they're just going to turn off, right? So the idea is out there that you can do better by understanding the buyer better, right? Now you take that and you kind of like you have that for business to business and a little bit of business to consumer, right? But then person to person you get into it, and it's just a personalized web experience. It's just like, okay, what's gonna incite this? What's gonna help attract this person to come back or be interested in what we're doing here, and so on. So the reason why you don't see the old websites is that they're not as relevant to the individual user, and then they're not going to be logged in the algorithm because they're not being frequented. They're not being seen as often because they're not being promoted.
I mean, that makes sense in a way, but I also feel like I remember, like, for example, after 9/11, doing searches for things, and I just mean like Google searches, you could find a lot of stuff. I can't remember half of the like websites, documentaries, like things like that I had found, but I found all kinds of like super good information, but coming from obscure sources, but you could still find it through searching and through using like, doing certain keyword searches.
The dorks.
Like you could commands. Still find, you could find like good stuff, even on YouTube. Not that long ago, you could find stuff. And then it seemed like there was this change that occurred where now every time you do searches, it's no longer like relevant to what you're actually looking for. It's all this corporate shit like you're talking about. There are people that are like, that I think are paid to do like SEO optimization. So they just like load their website up with shit like that and they get boosted in the rankings and all of this. And then there's this like profit mechanism built into, Google and like all of that. And I think that is, I think the internet has changed a lot and it's made it harder to find things. And then after Trump, they really like decided to start censoring, and that made it worse because it wasn't that long ago, even 2014, 2015, that you could find still good stuff like here on YouTube. And that has obviously changed and that's no longer the case. And it is the same thing with like Google search. You try to go and find some of the stuff like that I found on 9/11 back in the day, and you'd never find it today. You would never find, all of this like esoteric information about like PTAC or whatever. You wouldn't find somebody like Christopher Bolin's 9/11 research like now, unless you knew specifically like to search for his name. His website wouldn't come up, even though it has archived like all these different articles on 9/11 or for whatever it is. Like you wouldn't find that very good source of like highly accurate information. You would find like AP, CNN, Reuters,
official story stuff. Yeah. Well, they definitely consciously did that. That's definitely conscious. And that was I think that we all heard the calling on the day that I think Hillary Clinton came out and basically announced that there's an information war and we're losing it. Like I think to me that today everything changed because that's when everything ramped up really fast. Like I know we're going here. I know we're going to go down conspiracy road because I've already looked at your stuff and I know all about it. And I know you don't know about my stuff and like what I've done, and I got to pass too. So it's going to be interesting. Then just to kind of wrap up on just my introduction was like I'm doing that, and I'm going to start doing an AI Tuesday. So like AI Tech Tuesdays with my friend Mike D, or I guess we're calling him 4D Mike, or Space Monkey, or whatever we're gonna call him. He's somebody. He's somebody, dude. Okay, so so that's going to be that too. So we're going to be talking about topics like that and about future tech and about like solutions as well, because I have solutions to some of these problems that are kind of hanging out there that people worry about, like AI taking over and how the AI is being trained and AI lockdowns. And really it comes back down to liberty, and it comes back down to doing things yourself and owning your life. So it's going to be a good time. And we both, Mike and myself both have extensive technical backgrounds. So it's going to be detailed. It's going to be, it's granular. It's going to be, and it's going to be also maybe something you can pick up on. And if you have an idea, you can help push it forward. This is a wild time, and the AI, like I was saying earlier, is like the .com, like the screen, the smartphone screens, the surface area technology. I mean, it's like these big leaps we take in the information age, right? That we've been seeing. These giant leaps that we take every time they speed things up. AI is going to make things accelerate at a rate you wouldn't believe. But again, AI Tuesdays, Mike and me, and we're gonna have a good old time. So
I think that's
anyways,
kind of interesting too, that like advances in like technology kind of mirror how advances in like evolution happened. It is like sudden like that. It's not like you would think, and it's just like random.
Yeah, well, it is. But the one thing that I've noticed, and it just goes all the way back to my undergrad, but it's like the humankind, right? The human race. We have this innate primal instinctive drive that everybody has, that nobody will resist, and that is to communicate as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And throughout time, all development has followed this, from the clay tablets and the envelopes to the papyrus and the script, to nailing the notification on the door. The Lutherans, starting to use ads in a community space, to newspapers, to radio, to television, to wire,
Printing.
to internet, to all this stuff. Boom, boom, boom. Everything equals more efficient information faster to more people. And now we're at internet. We're not at fast internet and AI, and we're on the verge of even quicker and faster, more efficient things. For some reason, this is what we want to do. I mean, it's like it's built into our history. Like, it's just right there. So, anyways, that's what we're doing here. And so now, let everybody know about yourself. And that's a very long introduction, but that's how we do it here.
That was an extended introduction. I just, my name is Christina. You guys can call me Radix. I just do my own thing. I'm independent journalist and I guess content creator. I have a YouTube channel. I am also working on a documentary, but I just kind of cover whatever I want to, like whatever I find interesting, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. So where did all this start for you? Like, tell me about like how you got started in the documentary business and this truth business.
Okay. So I am not like I'm not technically in like the documentary space or anything like that. I have been an independent journalist for like a number of years, and I decided to do that because I had been working as a paralegal in the past. And I just, didn't really enjoy that. There were other things too. I think I felt the desire to like engage with people online back in 2016, 2017 for obvious reasons. And then just kind of kept doing it. And just, I found that I like doing stuff like that. Like I just like researching things that I find interesting and then telling people about it, It's not that different from like the work that you would do in a law firm anyways, if you're like investigating a case. So I've been doing that for a number of years. And when the Whitmer thing happened, I started writing articles about it, and I never like intended to make a documentary. That was not in my mind. But I covered it for like 2 years. And then there two of the guys that were accused by the government they were acquitted. And I interviewed one of them and like talked to him, and he was like, yeah, you know the story better than pretty much anybody I've talked to. We need to do more with this. And I was like, yeah, we need to get the truth out. It's being suppressed. And we just thought it would be really a good way to do that would be to just do a documentary. And the other aspect of it too is that like I've written so many articles, and people don't read anymore. That's a big problem. Or people read like headlines and maybe like the first paragraph, but they're not going to read like a full article that I could spend 9 hours working on, right?
Yeah.
and then nobody reads it. And then and this is what really got me started using YouTube more, because if you look back, like I've had my YouTube channel, I think since 2018, but I never, like, I didn't use it much, you know? And my earliest videos have like 30 views or whatever, but I started doing because I thought, oh, well, it would be easier for me to, like, if I write an article, to just kind of like summarize that in a video, because people digest that better. I guess they just don't like reading. And I'm like, well, if I want to put so much effort into something, like I want it to go to as many people as possible. And I just kind of feel like that is the case, generally speaking. But moreover, so with the Whitmer thing, everybody knows, you know, I'm sure everybody listening on your channel understands this, that obviously there was government corruption involved, like FBI corruption. Everybody knows that. But they don't know like the full story. They don't know all of the details of it. And so even if you can get that information out to people, like it's now 2023, these guys were arrested in 2020. They'd been entrapped and framed. That information's out there. Anyone could look it up if they wanted to. You can see that, but they're still in prison. You know, why is it that the mainstream narrative on that case hasn't been impacted by the disclosure of that information, right? It's a good question. Like, we now know from court documents, from discovery, that the government drove the entire plot, that they planned it. You know, they're literally in text messages organizing it. The government, the FBI, and their informants. And that
this is the shoe bomber. This is the underwear bomber. This is like all the same guys. It's all spun up by little helpers and handlers.
Exactly. And so we know that that information is available. Like that information, I have like stacks of this stuff here on my desk. This is all publicly available information. Anyone can go into Pacer and get it, and you can read. You know, these are the out-of-court statements. This is where you have these text messages between the FBI and their informants, and you can see them planning everything. So that information is out there. Well, why hasn't that changed the mainstream narrative? Because that isn't actually how it works. It doesn't matter. The way that things change is that they happen like culturally, you know, it has to happen that way, and then it spreads. You have to get enough people aware of it and interested to hear about it. And a documentary is a really good way to do that, because for a lot of people, they're busy. They don't have the time to do all of this research, to go through 6 terabytes of data and information. They want the story condensed, you know, and the other part of it is, it's not, you can't personally relate to something. Like if you hear a story about, oh, some poor guy got, you know, unlawfully or arrested or whatever. He was framed for something and sat in prison while he was innocent for several years. And then he finally was released. Like nobody cares. People are like, oh, okay, that sucks. But it didn't affect them personally. So, you know what I'm saying? Like people don't get invested unless it's something that they can personally relate to. I think documentaries are unique because you're presenting information in sort of like an entertaining way and giving people an ability to like really relate with someone on a human level. Because like in the documentary on the Whitmer case, you're not going to just see this information and understand the context of it, but you'll hear from it firsthand from somebody who spent 18 months in prison. But you're going to hear from their family members, their friends, people who grew up with them, people who were present at some of the field training exercises that the government said were like really big and bad and scary or whatever. And you're going to just hear their stories. And then like you can relate to people more. And I think it humanizes them more. I don't know. If somebody has been so smeared in the media, how else can you like change that perception if people aren't really motivated to challenge like their belief about that story? You have to do something that is going to be impactful. And I think that a documentary is a good way to do it. So it's a long answer, but that's how I've gotten involved. And my documentary isn't done yet, but it's ongoing.
Okay. So is this, you've made documentaries in the past, correct?
No.
Okay, so this is your first one.
Yeah, and I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm learning as I go.
Oh yeah? Okay.
Yeah, which is like insane. I have a really good editor though that I have working with me that I have to pay, but he's worth it. And he's got experience doing this stuff. He cut my trailer from some of the footage that I have gathered, it's awesome. If you guys haven't seen it, you should go watch it. It's really cool. So that gives you an idea of the level of professionalism you can expect, but it is really hard. I think a lot of people, when they do documentaries, they have a team of people and some kind of budget, you know? But it's okay. You just learn as you go.
Absolutely. That's very cool. I actually, when I was coming out of college, I was thinking about kind of doing like documentaries. So it's always been in the back of my mind. Something like that, you know, happening, I guess. But no, it's great stuff. And I kind of like I'm kind of got my own research project going on as well.
Okay.
But that's great, man. I wish you best luck on that. I mean, it's a ton of fun and it's a lot of work. It's tedious and you got get super busy all the time, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a massive project.
Right?
Yeah,
Well,
I need all the help I can get.
Like I said, you know, the story is familiar because I go way back too. Like, I mean, it sounds like to me you kind of got shook awake by 9/11 probably about the same time I did.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we're part of that generation of people that woke up at that time, and then there's a whole other generation that we've been waking up at different times, or like, you know, we're too awake to be awake around here.
I think
but
if you are from the generation that like really remembered 9/11, you know, or you were in school when it happened or whatever, it kind of changes like your perception of things, especially if, you know, the official story we were told. My cousin emancipated himself when he was 17 years old so he could join the Marines, you know, and go over to the Middle East. And yeah, he died in Beirut in 2007. And I just like remember too, he was not the same person when he came back, and could not like reintegrate into civilian society.
Man.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that whole time too, everybody should have been. We were all against war, right? But people were voting for war, and that was part of the hypocrisy that was going on. And we're trying to point out to people that, hey, you know, if you're voting for the establishment, you're voting for more war. I don't care what party label you got on it. Like right now, that's what's going on. You know, and right now we're basically using our military to do operations, not to defend the country. And you know, they're being misused, and there's people that are in that military, and there's soldiers, and there's people's lives that are affected by this every day, you know. And it doesn't matter whether you think abortion should be legal or not at this point. You need to get on the same page as to the bigger issue that's going on here, and at least come together under one idea, you know. And that was kind of the Ron Paul thing, was like, you know, he was going to end all wars immediately. It's like, why wouldn't you get behind that with an honest president that has a track record of being constitutional? And, you know, seems like most people would like that, right? And that's when you get into the world of understanding what subversion and mind control is, because that's the big barrier we run up against when we're trying to reach people, to give them the message, whether it be through a documentary or a live stream, a video or article or whatever, you know. It's that resistance, that thing that's going on with them.
Yeah, and I do think too that like these psyops have gotten more sophisticated. You know what I mean? Like you can go read about like and I'm sure you probably are familiar with it, the paper that was written by Colonel Michael Aquino and General Paul Vallely called Mind War, like the Mind War Doctrine. That was like their updated version of like psychological operation. They wanted to call it Mind War, and they were saying things like, you know, if you can control somebody's like perception of reality, you basically like you can win a war without having to engage in like a kinetic battle. Exactly. So everything became about psyops and like taking things from MK Ultra and just like mainstreaming it. You know, I think social media is a big part of like social engineering. You know, think about how much data they have on people too. This is like another thing. If you grew up in the time frame we grew up in, like I was born in 88. So I did not grow up on the internet. Like I did not use social media. I didn't have a cell phone until I was 17 years old, and I could afford the phone and like to pay the bill on my own. So I wasn't on the internet like, you know, it was different. And for kids growing up now, like everything about them's on the internet. So imagine what not just the government, but corporations know about you, and like psychological profiling, and data analytics and stuff like that. There's, you know, nudge theory, right? So you can like slowly like nudge people in a different direction.
Judo.
Steer them. Yeah, you can like put them in these silos where they're in these little echo chambers, and then you feed them like outrage all day, and you keep them engaged. That's what they did in 2016. You know, look at like Cambridge Analytica. Cambridge Analytica had like 5,000 to 8,000 unique data points on every U.S. voter. That's so they know more about you than you know about yourself. Can you think of on the top of your head 5,000 to 8,000 different things about yourself? No, you can't, right? Like,
nor would I want to.
I'm not like, that interesting. Yeah, I could not come up with like this much information about myself, but that is like the level of data analytics that they have. And then they can use that to really like, you know, artificially engineer entire movements. You know, you could look at like the Arab Spring as a first iteration of using social media to astroturf organic grassroots.
Well, they exploit
revolutions.
They exploit what we were talking about right before this. They exploit that need for that open need and that open willingness to share information people have, because they want to communicate as effectively and as quickly as possible. It's just brain to brain stuff, right? And we're trying to do that, but they realize that that's a human trait. You see, one thing that they understand, and I say they, I'm the establishment of power, those who know, whoever it may be.
You know.
Right. Okay. That the human being, the human mind itself is exploitable, and there's open loopholes that can be exploited that everybody is open to being exploited by, and that you can't do anything about it except for be aware of, and cannot constantly keep yourself and your sources in check.
There's also
That's all
things
you can do.
Like the subconscious, right? So there's things that you don't even pick up on consciously that are affecting you and influence you. They bypass your conscious mind, and then you just act upon them later without even realizing it, because you have, you know, your subconscious has integrated that information or whatever. They do stuff like that.
Manufacture rage.
Yeah, and they do it in advertising all the time. And I'm sure you guys have felt that feeling before, like, you know, where you start to kind of question everything you believe, like, how is it that I've come to think my own thoughts or think the things I think? How did that happen? Did it really happen organically, or was that information put into my newsfeed so I would see that specific story, and they knew that that would be something that would, you know, like anger me because they know I don't like this, so then I clicked on it and I read about it, and then I've integrated it into my worldview and created an identity around it. You know, it's kind of crazy to think about stuff like that.
By the people around it.
Yeah. So like there's a guy, Neil Sanders. Neil Sanders has wrote a book called Your Thoughts Are Not Your Own. That's one of them. He's written a couple books on mind control. He's a British author. He's written a book on Cambridge Analytica that was really informative, and I highly recommend it, looking at their parent company, SEL Group, as well, and some of the operations they've done, some of their work with like J-Trig and stuff like that. And it's just kind of crazy and frightening that they can deploy this stuff like on the scale that they can basically control an entire election. You know, they can change an election just by using these tactics of subtle, you know, behavioral modification. And look at what big tech companies do when they censor people, when they give you warnings for talking about certain things. They are doing the same thing. It's behavior modification.
Exactly, and perception management on top of that. The two things really quick. Everybody, this is a great conversation. If you would help us get the word out there, tweet it, post it, and
share it
where you think people will see it. Share it out, get people in here, because we're having a good old time. And I don't know where Daisy is, but she's one of the ones who helped like set this up, so she should be here.
Yeah, where's Daisy? I always see her in chat. Let me see.
Right? Jacob was another one. So Jacob's here.
Let me try to see if I can share this.
The other is, I'm pretty certain that's an Addams Family pinball machine behind you. Am I correct?
Yeah.
I used to play that. There was like one. I know all the little sayings on it. There was like one that was like, I can't remember where it was, but maybe it was in a pool hall or something, or a bar that had pool tables.
Oh
Here,
yeah.
in Atlanta, it's called Smith's, and I think it was in there. But you always hear it going off, so you kind of remember those pinball machines.
It's really cool.
The Mamushka.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. I love this thing. I have a video up on my channel. It's like a YouTube short of me playing the pinball machine so people could see it. I had to take my phone and hold it like this while I'm playing the freaking thing with my hands, because people have been asking me to do like a pinball stream. And I was like, well, in order to do that, I'll have to literally move my camera over there, and it'll be all of this work, and I've got cords and everything set up. So I'm like, well, I want to show people the machine because everyone asks about it. So I just did that. So if you guys want to see it and what it looks like,
it's a very
and
popular
what it
machine.
sounds like, go watch
the
the little YouTube short that I have.
Awesome.
It's cool.
Back in the day, after I kind of came around to things, right? And then I got kind of highly motivated to kind of get involved. I was battling on the Facebook front, and I was in these groups that were liberty, truth-minded groups, but we were kind of like the ones who went out there and debunked all the bullshit. And we kind of we had a deal where we all policed our own neighborhood. So we're kind of we're the Facebook groups, different groups, but they, we had a lot of reach within Facebook at the time, because at that time, this is around, 2009, 10, 11, 12, and a little bit after that we, so we would intercept all this incoming disinformation and debunk it, and then try to make sure that didn't spread, because information like that was spreading very easily at the time. And at the same time, try to also put out good information that would kind of help see through the first veil, that corporate media establishment veil that people were born into, and then have to kind of be, shown how to get out of, or they snap out of it through some kind of event or something like that. If you've been there, it's something we all agree on, that this is a definite phenomenon that happens, right?
Oh yeah.
And for sure. And then what people don't realize is that you fall once you walk through the first veil. Well, there's a second veil.
There might be more. Yeah. This happens to me all the time. I swear to God, every time I feel like I finally really figured it out, there's always
more.
I always learn something else, and I'm like, oh shit.
There's micro veils inside the veils. I mean, I could I can go on for a long time.
It keeps you humble though, if you always remember that
you should.
There's
Veils of perception.
I forget what the phrase is, but it's something like a foolish man, thinks he's smart and intelligent, and a wise man thinks he knows nothing, or whatever. You got what the saying is, though. People that are wise understand that they don't really know anything.
Yep. You got to keep going. Always keep learning and be looking for how it's shifting. But the one thing is people, there's as soon as you get free, you're very subjectable. You're very open to new information, and there's a whole bunch of just dead ends and rabbit holes and traps set for you right when you get on the other side of it. People fall into traps, and they end up in bad positions. They end up discredited. They end up divided from the base that where they should be of, awake people, not woke. We're too awake to be woke, but people that have seen through the veils. That's really what we are. It's we're just able to see through veils. But there's the second veil is a big place, and there's a lot of people that are stuck in the second veil, or believing that they're already out of all sense of manipulation.
I feel excuse me, sorry.
Sure.
I feel like there's a lot of pride involved in that.
Another condition, Dunning-Kruger kind of condition, right? We hear a lot about that.
Where people think that's I argue with these people, and I'm telling you, this is on it's a universal thing. It's not just one side or the other does this. This is everybody does this to an extent. I think it's part of just how narcissism is a spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
There are I'm trying to figure out the best way to word it. Sorry.
Oh, no
I
worries.
had
No.
it and then I lost it. I was like, oh,
Well,
this
it's
is a great way to like
this is an
put this.
exploitable condition again that,
Yeah,
where someone who's
well,
been successful and knows something and has been really had a successful life and has a lot of confidence in their ability to navigate the world using their brain, they come
yeah.
upon this thing that they don't know and they can't prove and they can't find anybody else to prove it for them. So they decide that it's this thing, right?
There's
And that's like
there's like
the
a
condition that's prevalent through the conspiracy realms, right? So you get like the best example in the world of this is the flat earther, because and I'm not trying to go into this. I'm not debating flat earth. Stop right now. It's not gonna happen, right? No.
It's like,
See, you know too. You
let's
know too.
do
Don't even say the
this.
word. Don't say the word because they'll show up in droves. But no, that is the ultimate example of it, because it
That's
really
so
is. There's a lot
funny.
of smart people that get sucked into it, and
No,
they're just
that's
kind of
exactly what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
There are like, yes, they're very smart people that sometimes I don't know what it is, it just happens though. Like you say, for some reason, people can present information in a way that really does make you think that, like, okay, yeah, maybe the world is, an Oreo on the back of a turtle or whatever. They did that video. I mean,
right.
you know
Again,
what
it's an
I mean?
exploitable condition in the human race that some people have a knack for and understand almost instinctively, or it's been taught to them in some way that they just react to it, or it's a condition that causes it, right? But
Yeah.
but they understand how to go after that, and that's what they do.
Yeah. One
So you
of
get into all these different realms, like, and so what we did was we go out there and we would combat this. And one of the big narratives that we fought against was the crisis actor staged event narrative, right? Where all the people that were Sandy hoaxers and all that stuff
Oh my
were going on.
God.
So
I
we were
still get
fighting
these
for
people
years.
still
Yeah.
to this day that
Uh-huh.
don't think Ashley Babbitt died. Yeah, and that was like
I know. Yeah. That's like.
I don't know what to say. I've talked to her mother, like, I don't know what you want from me, with these, but yeah, I know what you mean. And I think that there's a phenomenon too, where when you have believed like the mainstream narrative, if you will, like your entire life, and then you go through like your first kind of like awakening situation, there's this phenomenon though where people think that they're like, yeah, I finally have it figured out, and they're like out there like zealously arguing. And this is what I've seen on both sides. And it's like,
Yep.
they think they've reached the ultimate conclusion and they're totally woke now. And then you're like, no, like I was there, but I know what you're thinking, but like, you're not quite there. But they'll argue like they know 100%
Exactly.
fact that this is like, they know this to be true, which I find, really difficult to deal with.
Same old trap. You're back in the same trap you were in the first fail.
That's exactly. You're very like
got a new chapter.
dogmatic stuff about.
Yeah, it's a new chapter. Remember why you had to get out of the first fail. Remember why you had to be free from it to see the world the way it was. Don't get back into the hole and not be able to get out, and don't let crabs pull you down back into the hole.
Yeah.
Get on the other side of the wall, see what's out there, keep an open mind. Always remember, it's more important to the truth than to be right.
Yes.
There's no shame at ever saying, you know what, I had that wrong. Now that I have the new information, I got the truth. So hey, I'll never be wrong again, right?
You know how many times that happens to me though? I'm wrong so many times. Everybody is, you don't know what you don't know. But yeah, that happens to me all the time. I do think that there's a thing though that is like, now I don't know what your religious beliefs are, but I think it's like spiritual discernment. That's how I see it. And I think, I don't know, I've always had sort of like, I get like it's sort of like intuition. You kind of get like feelings about stuff, or like it's hard to explain, like a vibe or whatever. I know it sounds kind of like goofy and like woo-woo to say.
No, I get it. You're good.
But it's a thing. Yeah. And I think it's like a discernment where I feel like I can kind of read people in a way where I can kind of tell if I feel like somebody's being genuine or not. Even if, and you can be genuine, but still be wrong, right? Like you believe that you're telling the truth, you're just wrong but you're not purposely lying to someone and trying to deceive them. You actually believe what you're saying. You just happen to be wrong. Like, I can sense that, and I can say, okay, that person I think is an authentic person. You know, I think they're a genuine person. I think they just need to do more research into that topic, and they probably will, and change their mind. And then there's other people where you get a vibe about them and you sense that like they have an agenda, or maybe there's something inconsistent about them in like their values or whatever. I don't know. I feel like I've always had the ability to kind of like spot stuff like that. And I do think it is discernment. I think it's spiritual discernment. I think that, you know, you can kind of pray for the Holy Spirit to give you wisdom in things like this. And I think that that is a real thing for sure.
Definitely. So Radix Verum, how'd you pick the name? I know what it means. I looked it up.
Yeah. So it's so funny because it's an old name I picked out a long time ago, like back in the day, as my like anon handle, you know, before I was doxxed and all of that. And it means the root of truth. At least I think that's what it means. You know,
You're right.
I wanted it to mean.
Yeah. No, I like the root of truth. That's the thing. I thought root cause, root solution.
Yeah,
everything,
right. Like, you know, you're like kind of
never stop digging, man. Never stop digging
down in, right? Like, you're grounded. That was like the point of it. So I thought that was kind of cool. And I guess it just stuck, you know.
No, it's really cool. I dug it. It took me a while to get it right, and I finally got it right. And then I looked it up. I was like, I'm gonna figure out what the name means. So yeah, no, I dig it, and that's definitely my philosophy too. Like that's you know, the deepest of deep sea divers. Right. So coming around like in that day, that narrative we kind of went up against, right? I felt like there was a real organization to it. Like we literally were battling in groups against these people that were putting this stuff out like every night. You know, it went on for, I guess, years. I mean, it just seemed to be routine after a while. And it was that and debunking and then educating, right? So the group was all about being a positive influence and keeping patriots out of trouble, and so we can get Ron Paul elected. Really, basically keeping these people away from, because if you notice, when they get drugged down into these other holes, they all seem to have a different ideology and they don't like the person. They never get on board with anything. So there's a big divisive utility to it.
There's so much infighting on the internet and drama and nonsense.
There's a lot of people in those groups though that if they hadn't fallen down that hole, they'd be hanging with us right now. I mean, they're not bad people. They just got into this. They got sucked down into the hole, and that's where their knowledge stayed. Like I said, it's the same condition as the first veil. You're still living with blinders on. You just think that you don't have them on again.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah. So within that, we also, and this is, I'm kind of like this is going to become very interesting in a second, because the another guy, right, that we went after, the stage event thing, we crushed that thing at Boston when they jumped the shark. That's how I tell the story. It's like they jumped the shark so bad with all the Hollywood, we just destroyed them, where the people that were spreading the lies no longer had credibility, and it was like boom, boom, boom. We found the places, the hives we called it, where all the propaganda was coming out of. And we kind of just barricaded them down until they didn't want to do it anymore. But see, what I didn't realize is that there was a whole group on YouTube that was actually probably fueling all that. And that's what I came across now as Winning Reality in this new world here. That's what I've been doing recently. So there's some stuff as far as I've been learning about and researching that goes all the way back again to where I was at, but I was just in a different place. I was in a different side of the truth and liberty movement. I was, I call these people the anti-truth because they really were a divisive unit, and they really did drag a lot of people down. But in that, there was another guy. His name was Drake Kent Bailey. Have you ever heard of him? Drake? You never heard of Drake?
I don't think so.
So back in the day, right? This is like right around again the 2012 election.
Okay.
Ron Paul. I was part of the Ron Paul revolution, and I was. We started watching this guy named Drake Bailey, right? And but he amassed a huge following really fast, because he said he had some inside information. He presented himself as an old militia guy, right? And he had that whole kind of almost sovereignty kind of thing to him. Where he just believed all the stuff. He believed all the stuff, but he had information that there's a military and militia coalition going on that was going to free the Republic. And there's a group that spawned kind of off of that called the Republic, where they had all these elections and stuff, and people thought they were government officials. They're kind of following the sovereign thing, right? But this
What
dude,
is this
Drake,
like sovereign citizen stuff?
some of it
Okay.
it's an it intertwines with sovereign, and intertwines with militia, and it intertwines with UFOs. So hang tight. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, it gets good. It gets good. So anyways, right? Drake amassed this audience, and they had a Facebook group, right? And they had Blog Talk Radio. And he actually ended up breaking Blog Talk Radio one night because he had so many people log on and they couldn't handle it. And what he would do
Wow.
is he'd sit there for about 3 hours, right? And he'd spin yarns about how there was this plan, right? And there was a plan between the militia and the insiders and good guys, and it was a whole big old story. And there was all these,
Really?
there was green lights, yellow lights, red lights to let us know what to do as patriots. And
What?
we were supposed to be prepping. Oh yeah, dude.
What
And
does
there
that
was
mean? Green
well,
lights?
green light means go. It means if it's on, that it's what you think it means. It means they're taking over the government, right? So it's just a whole like the original plot to get patriots involved in this kind of thing, right? But his thing
Huh.
was that you wouldn't have to do anything about it. Like you would have people that were already active, and it was more about, I believe, it was more about getting people to get into the militia or to empower it in some way, even though he didn't seem to be more than just he had a group, but it was just him, more than a
Hmm.
grifter, right? But he told stories really well. He's a Vietnam vet, and he just spins stories, and you want to sit there and listen to him. He has this old country voice. It's very endearing, and he talks these stories, man. But he was like, yeah, we have insider info. Okay, here's what went down today. It's like really efficient, and you sit there and listen to him for hours, right? And
Yeah.
he would tell these
Sounds
amazing stories
familiar.
about
Okay.
the plan. So he said that was the plan. Trust the plan is what he used to tell people. He used to tell people to
Are
trust
you
the plan.
serious?
I'm very serious. In
Oh my
fact,
gosh, that's
as
so
you're speaking,
weird.
I'm going to be pulling up some pictures and some video and stuff of him. But yeah, I wanted to ask you if you ever heard of this guy, because what I call this guy is I call him Original Q. And so when I
That
say
is
that,
so funny.
people try to correct me and say, no, it was these guys over here and this and that. It's like, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about 10 years before. I'm talking about where
No,
the
go
story
back
came from.
further. Go back even further to the 90s
Take me on a
and go
ride.
on these old forums, like the UFO thing that you were talking about. But go
Yeah.
ahead. Sorry.
Well, he eventually integrated the UFO, and then that's where he jumped the shark.
Okay.
But the plan was, even if Obama was gonna like win, that somehow they were gonna stop him from destroying America by having this coup happen. There'll be mass arrests. Remember that term, mass arrests?
Yeah.
Mass arrests and purple walks, right? In fact,
That's
I'm
so
pulling out the
funny.
thing I'm pulling up from DivineCosmos.com. The guy who launched Drake into the internet sphere really was this guy named David Wilcock. Ever heard of him?
Oh my God. No. Oh,
Yep,
no,
yep.
not David Wilcock. Jesus
Oh
Christ.
yeah, homeboy himself. Yeah, unfortunately, he has a
5,
little
6,
center
7.
in my old right, my old hometown. But yeah, it's a real real pride of Virginia Beach there.
The David Wilcock people are insane.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, I feel bad for
yeah.
them though,
I know those
because
people. Like,
there's
yeah,
good
I don't
people
know
probably
them,
that
but
are
yeah,
just
they are.
deceived though. But I don't understand, wow. It
There we
is
go.
funny. Okay, the Corey Good, whatever, like all this nonsense. This is so funny though. Yeah, isn't that his website?
Yep.
Wow.
Sorry,
And
I'm
that's
fiddling around here.
2012. Holy shit. So
Yep.
so
Check it out.
David Wilcock has been like pushing this narrative since 2012. Wow. That's wild.
Yeah. And this is the whole thing where he got into, like mass arrests of this core group have been planned since at least the 1970s, according to Drake, the new whistleblower recently interviewed. right? This is how he launched them, right? And let's see if there's anything still on here that no.
So like
there should be his thing on here if I remember right.
There is another similar story to this one that I was told by a friend of mine who has been researching a lot of this stuff. His name is Recluse. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he found a very similar story that went back to like the 90s to some UFO forum where there was the same person saying the same stuff of like, there's going to be, this government disclosure, but it was going to be about like UFOs or whatever. And there was this White House insider or whatever, and I think he used that name or something.
There it is.
Yeah.
This was his this was his website. Oh, it's not gonna do that, is it? It keeps streaming me back here. Anyways, yeah. So I got here. Let me just do this. I'll stop sharing for this for a second, and I'll
okay.
I'll figure out what the other thing is. But yeah, I thought this was gonna be the one with the video on it. Stop that. Oh yeah. You think it used to work. See, so that's the whole thing. Is like sometimes stuff just disappears, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you got to check out Drake. So the thing about Drake was like he had the plan, right? So the question I had was like, okay, so it comes around to the next election, and this Q shows up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, I looked at that and saw it, and like in 2 seconds, I was like, this can't be. No way, right? This is the whole Drake thing again. It sounded just like him. And so I thought for myself, maybe this is the malicious, like next, like in my mind at the time when I walked away from the Drake stuff. Oh, by the way, it turned into UFOs because he said, yeah, now we have a galactic federal, so he merged it into UFOs where I ended up getting into a battle with the people from Project Camelot and running them off from the group because they came in swinging in on a chandelier going, oh, he's really on our side. You guys, if something, we should vote for him and he's going to help.
What?
I swear to God.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
And people were believing these people, like hundreds of people that were like ready to vote for Ron Paul were suddenly like listening to these people. So we had the whole group.
That's so wild.
Went at them, and we ran them off. We're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
We're like, what? It kind of shook loose the hold they had on people and made them realize that doesn't make any sense at all, does it? And that eventually led to them running this with their tails. They lasted about 2 weeks. Let me put it that way. They moved fast. The group. But anyways, yeah. So that the UFO got bought into that. So what's Drake doing these days? Drake these days is like just hanging out, doing these lonely streams with these two other people. Like they don't get a whole lot of people. That I can't say anything about that. But they get some people that come there. I can't understand what the grift is. Like I don't understand. He's never tried to collect money. He's never tried to do anything but just push this whole crazy thing that he's involved with aliens. And I think it's just like just mental illness on YouTube. But the guy got so far as to get enough people to break Blog Talk Radio on a single night.
That's so weird.
I know it is. He's a great storyteller. Now he hangs out with this dude. He says he travels between dimensions and blows up planets with his mind. So I hope to interview Drake one day because I want to understand how he gets involved with this stuff. Like, where did you come up with this? Is there a school? Is there a club or something you guys meet?
This is so weird.
Isn't it?
Who knows?
Some secret place? Like, how do you?
There might be shit,
Right? But I was like, okay. So when I heard the Q stuff came out, I was like, this is gonna get squashed really easy, right? And so I saw enough people out there talking about it, saying, come on, come on, guys, this is not what it is, right? And then I figured that, it was kind of handled. I didn't really think it would take off and get to the place it got. Now I did see a HBO documentary about that, and I was like wondering. I actually thought that you had made that documentary, so I was trying to like watch things on. I thought you'd make one on banking, and so on.
My videos on banking.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was looking for these documentaries because they said you're a documentary maker, so I'm like, I'm looking for documentaries.
Oh,
right?
No. Not
So,
yet.
I mean, that's how that's like, this is how
Not
it works.
yet, though I wish.
Purple monkey dishwasher, right? So it's like, so anyways, no, but anyways, I thought it was interesting, and I did watch the first episode,
Mhm.
and like I said, I asked you beforehand, is there anything? It's all cool to talk about and everything, but I don't, I find it interesting because of my background and like the original, what I call original Q stuff, and then how that kind of went over.
It's so
I kind of took my
weird.
eye off of that realm. And
Mhm.
just let it go, thinking that it could never get to where it got to. That was very interesting that it got to that far. And I still, until
still
a long
going.
time ago, I bet, and I still thought that I still feel like maybe it is like a leftover remnant of Drake, because the story and the terminology is so much like Drake. I feel like
I don't
maybe
know.
whoever or
So
whatever started it saw Drake. They know who Drake is. They heard that story. They were
it
there.
could
And
be
they were there.
possible. I've written an article. I don't know if you've seen it. So it's about my thoughts on the origin of Q. Have you seen that?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay, so I've gone into like the Mind War paper, and I think there's a lot of things in there that have been utilized for that. But I just feel like these things, if you don't have any experience with, like, I don't know, if you don't spend all of your time online, like I was never a terminally online person until 2017, because I wasn't interested in politics prior to that. I wasn't on the internet really in 2012. I didn't care about Ron Paul. No offense.
Oh, no worries.
Because my politics back then was that I saw it all as a corporate, well, kind of similar to the way that I still see it now, but I saw it as like this kind of corporate thing where both sides are kind of controlled by the same people, and I didn't think they'd ever allow a third party candidate to like really interfere with that. And I kind of presumed that most of that stuff was like rigged anyway. I didn't really think that like, oh yeah, every vote counts, whatever. I just didn't really care either, because I don't know. I'm a sort of like an introvert, I like to be by myself. I do my own research and do my own thing. But so like, I just didn't care. Like in 2012, I was probably spending my time like reading obscure books, and stuff like that. But so I don't know, like my friends have been researching this stuff for a long time. And one of my friends found, like I said, this thing from the 90s on this weird internet forum that had the same story too. So I feel like whatever it is, there's like a narrative that you can kind of like play around with. But the gist though of it is that like, oh, there's somebody you don't know that has special information,
Right.
or like
It's a good
has
on
the secret
faith.
information, and like they're telling you and putting it
Whistleblowing.
out there publicly or whatever.
Yep.
Now, I think that whoever, what they're people on these weird UFO forums in the 90s probably aren't going to have much of an overlap with people in the liberty movement in 2012, or like in the Tea Party in 2010 or whatever. Like you might have some overlap, but probably not enough that people would recognize something like that. I don't know. Because I've never heard about this person that you're just mentioning. Not even from people that had been researching, like, the Q thing for a long time. I haven't seen anybody bringing that up.
I know, it's surprising nobody,
and
like,
trying to.
He was huge in 2000. Dude, it was really.
I've
It was
never
really
heard of it.
Yeah.
I heard of David Wilcock, but not until like 2018, if I remember correctly. And I thought he was kind of weird. But I just think that, I don't know. I feel like these are, for whatever reason, there's some kind of like narrative that they want to get, or maybe they're just kind of testing to see what they're able to do utilizing like the internet for things like, okay, so before there was Q, there was like FBI Anon, and there was another one, if you remember, prior to that. Like, have you spent a lot of time on the Chans?
No.
Okay. If you spent a lot of time on 4chan in 2016, you would have seen there were these people that would post occasionally on the boards and say stuff like that same story of like, oh, I'm going to make a prediction that something's going to happen on this date. Or like the FBI anon was somebody that said that they were working in the FBI and that like Hillary Clinton was going to get arrested because of her emails or something. And if I remember correctly, FBI anon said that they had been investigating her emails and that like the real corruption was in the Clinton Foundation, and that the FBI was having this like internal discussion about like, would they bring charges on her or would they not, because it would be this political thing, and then there's an election going on. So for whatever reason, this person said that they were going to the chance to put this information out there because, why not, I guess. And it's kind of like, there are these things that are dealt with by people that have been on there, and they see people posting stuff like this all the time, or just making a prediction that doesn't come true. And it's like, yeah, okay, whatever. It's another one of these people. But I think that for, whatever happened, Q was different in a certain way that for whatever reason made people think that it was more legitimate.
It's that, or just like, it just the whole idea of such a thing hadn't crossed their plates before. But here's a crazy story, right? All right, there was this guy that I played music with, right? And here and there, not all the time. And he's a pretty good soundman, but he's also a lawyer. And he used to hate Trump, hate, just scream and yell about him, be this is ornery old redneck about it as a kid, right? And then one night we were having a back and forth about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, hold on, man. And he goes, what do you mean Joe Biden does this and that to kids and blah, blah. I was like, hold on a second. And I pulled up that press conference where for an hour and a half, he fondled everybody's kids and smelled their hair and did all that shit. I was like, okay. And I showed it to him, and he couldn't unsee it. He couldn't unsee it. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Right. So he, I didn't even realize this at the time, but it evidently got to him. He went home. Never heard from him again, actually. Never talked to him again. Never heard from him again. Right. And then the next thing I hear, he's one of the people that's up inside the building. Like,
wait, what?
Yeah. Next thing I hear, he's one of the people up inside the building, up inside, on J6. Yeah.
Oh, no way. That's so wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I feel bad because I was like, if he had just come back to me, I would have told him to never go listen to that. I was like, I felt like, like I turned him loose, but I was like, I thought, hey, at least come back and be like, oh yeah, you're right. I thought about it. I just can't stomach it. So now what do I do? Instead he just went on and fell down the very first rabbit hole he got into and somehow ended up there. Yeah. So that's a little bit of the interest here too, is like with the upcoming election, I don't want to see a three-peat. Right. And
I don't think we will.
I'm moving, I hope not. But I think there'll be another incarnation.
Well,
right?
Okay. So they announced that
this
Trump
is up here, by the
announced
way.
Huh?
Right here, by the way. I just found this. I actually have never seen this page before, but this is interesting. So the Drake Kent Bailey prophecy cult is collapsing. This is 13. This Blog Talk radio program, The Universal Voice, is now discontinued, and the host of the show have posted a recording of their resignation messages. I remember when this happened, actually. Granny went her own way. Revealed that Bailey is verbally abusive and that he says he is on a level with God.
Wow.
For more than a year. And dude, the little old lady who used to be there with him, she's just as sweet as can be.
Aww.
Everybody called her grandma. She was super nice. It's like a lot of time that we stuck around there, we're trying to help get these people away from this place, but we had to exist in it. I was kind of like more like the troubled kid in that scenario, where I was like, I was always asking too many questions and, and trying to, and then talking to people on the side and be like, this is kind of, think about this, man. That's like, and that's what we do. We slowly kind of pull people out so that they wouldn't lock us out. Right. So for more than a year, Drake, as he is known, has been predicting mass arrests of the dark cabal, right? The dark cabal rules the USA and the world.
Like the vocabulary. Yeah. Oh my God, this is so weird.
Every date has come and gone. He once
and nothing has happened.
Yep, thousands of online followers, but he has steadily lost his audience because of his announcements that never materialize. They're coming. So, among
They
other
are
things, it's always
still
something comes
doing
up.
this. There are still people out there though that are still doing this stuff too, and it just never
Yeah.
ceases to
Where's
amaze
the
me.
club at? I
So
want to know,
there's
like, where do they meet? They have like a festival or something they go to?
well, I think that for some people it is legitimately mental illness. I think other people are being influenced by people in the background, or whatever.
Yeah, that's where I think this is going.
Yeah. That maybe you don't know about. I mean, I don't know.
Well, that's where I'm taking this. See, I'm climbing back through my own timeline here with this stuff as well, and I'm going like, okay, at the time, and when this is right, was what was right at the time. I'm glad I didn't get involved with YouTube. I'm glad I didn't get involved any more than I did. I did what I was supposed to do at the time, and that's part of solution culture as well. Do your part, stay in your lane, do what you got to do at the time. And what I did was I brought a lot of people to liberty, and I protected a lot of people from bad information. So that mission accomplished, right? I did my part, and my group did their part. And that's what we were supposed to do. So, that was us fighting for all of us at the same time. You were fighting on your front, and everybody else was fighting on their front for whatever it was, right? That was where we were. So, we figure this out. See, okay. He once had thousands of online followers. So lost. Okay. He claims telepathic communications with ETs, access to inside Pentagon information, and knowledge of suppressed technologies that can cure diseases, regenerate lost limbs, and deliver unlimited free energy. And not to mention, they can gobble up chemtrails too, evidently.
Wow. So it's just a cure for everything,
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's amazing stuff. So anyways, I always wanted to, I think all these things are probably shut down by now, but if I find anything else interesting, I'll pop it up. But anyways, I just wanted to show you that, just to kind of give you that's Drake, right? Drake's still out there. I'll find a current video of him.
How old is he at this point?
He's got to be in his 70s, man. He's a Vietnam vet.
This sounds like elder abuse in a way, though.
He does it to himself.
Okay, well,
I'm a masochist. Right.
Maybe. Oh my gosh, it's so weird.
Yeah, so I'd love the energy. I just want him to say, hey, look, Drake, look, if you're listening, Drake, I'll do an interview with you, man. We don't have to publish it. I can publish it long after you're gone, right? And you can just tell us all the secrets about the inside of the UFO world and how you did what you did and what you were thinking at the time. I want the real story. I want the inside story from Drake.
But does he even know the real story?
I don't know
anymore.
I don't know. I mean, maybe he wants to confess on his deathbed. I'll be like deathbed confession of, whatever. But I promise you, if you do this, I will not. My word as a man, I will never release it until the date we agree upon. And you don't need any kind of guarantee or anything like that. I promise you that, sir. It wouldn't be the same if I did. So yeah, that's all you need to know.
There you go, Drake. Make it happen.
Come on, Drake. Yeah. It'll break the internet. You break it one more time, big guy. You can do it.
There you go.
One more time. You've got it in you, storyteller.
I'm not concerned about another J6 thing happening again. And I'll tell you why, though, because they did this thing where they kind of signaled that, like, oh, we might go arrest him, and no one showed up anywhere for anything. And immediately everybody was like, this is another J6, and I feel like too, after the Whitmer thing and after J6, there's just been a chilling effect, right? Where people are just like terrified to show up in person, or everybody thinks everybody's a Fed. And I also think that people saw the fallout of that and decided, like, this isn't worth it, for me. So I don't.
Yeah, I agree. There's that. There's always something else, right? There's always something else.
Yeah, that's true.
And they can still spin people back up and be like, that was, they thought they had us this time. And, but this is why it went down. They'll come up with some damn story. Like, maybe Drake's going to rise from the ashes. He's going to come out of nowhere with the big UFO cult. And like, it'll be like,
he's going to announce his run
here.
He's gonna get his telepathic messages.
I hope for Drake's sake, like, the very last minute, the aliens decide to come down. He'd be like, I told you.
I knew this whole time, and you guys doubted me.
See?
Well, here's the other thing, though. These narratives have been around forever because there were all of these things back in the day, all these different groups, I don't know if you want to call them cults or whatever, but they were like channelers, you know. So there would be these channelers that would say that they channeled like the Pleiadians, and the Pleiadians are coming to like liberate Earth from like the reptilians or whatever. Like
all those
there's
guys,
this whole they would create whole what's the word, like a whole cosmology story of like, oh, you know, we actually originate there and there are ancestors and they're, you know, like all this crazy stories. Yeah, you can find similar themes though, if you will. And the theme is that Earth, you know, is being enslaved. It's like a prison planet. And then there's going to be some good guys that will come to liberate us. And free humanity, and then give us access to things like free technology,
life
cures
extension
that have been suppressed, things like that, exactly, and to get rid of the debt-based monetary system, which was a big part of the narrative too, with like the channelers. That was the things that like the aliens, you know, the demons that were speaking to these people, telling them that they were aliens, were saying though. It was like there's always this like narrative of, you know, you've got to trust people that you don't know because they're special or whatever, you know, and that they know better for you or whatever. There's just like, I don't know, I've heard a lot of different but similar things, and some of it was more believable than others, but there, you know, I don't know what the motivation for that would be, but part of me wonders about like the intelligence community and their testing of like their psyops, right? So if you are testing to deploy like psychological operations and you want to be able to influence a lot of people, you could show up to like a UFO convention and you could, you know, see if I come up with this story or if I present this story, like, is this believable? You know, what's the reaction that I get, just to kind of maybe see. And then maybe one of these things actually picks up more than you anticipated, then you just go with it or something. I mean, I don't know, but there was this one guy I remember watching back in the day, this UFO guy. His name was like Phil Schneider, and he did you know, he talked about like the time he spent.
All these people are like the Disclosure Project, by the way.
Dulce Base or something, like where he
They're
saw.
These are all Disclosure people and Ancient Aliens. Ancient Aliens and the Disclosure Project cross into each other, of course, right?
Yes. So I remember hearing about stuff like that back in the day, and I actually believed that guy was telling the truth. You know, he had this, like, he was missing a finger, and he said that was one of the things that happened to him, like in these tunnels down there or whatever. And, you know,
it's quite an interesting story when you like read the backstory on that too. Yeah, I remember
really
that.
I should look into that more though, because it's been years since I have like.
I mean, it's not true. I mean, he was, you know, it just, you go into his backstory. Well, yeah.
Oh, okay. True. So I don't know anything about his backstory, but I remember listening to like the presentations that he gave or the speech he made, and I never got that vibe from him that he was like lying or a bad guy. I think he believed what he was saying, and maybe that is true. You know, I heard though that like he was missing or he died. I don't know. I don't remember what the story was about that guy, but like, you know, this stuff
anyway,
just
serious
happens. This is him.
Each one of them has working knowledge as to what's going on. Bear that in mind. You got 180 some countries. Well, 100 of them, give or take, at least. Take it upon themselves to become a part of this group, and these oligarchs don't play. Now, if you get too uppity, you're eliminated, horizontalized, killed, put in the grave, however you want to say it.
So they also do this to people that they don't like,
that
aren't necessarily part of that group, but they're people
Gail
that are
Gaia.
putting out information that they don't like to be out.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, are these the Gaia people?
In other words, Carrie Cassidy put some information in that in a post that you sent me, and I'll tell you right now that if they get wind of and they will, when they get wind of it, she's going to have problems. I don't know what kind. I don't know what level.
She's already got 2 strikes on her YouTube channel. She gets one more strike and it's all gone.
Where's
Okay,
the other guy?
it's not-
Where's
Oh,
the,
15 years of work.
And I'm not going to describe it anything past that. It's in the books. You're going to have to read
Okay.
it. study it.
See?
Well, and the thing
He
of
won't
it
give you the
is
whole
people
story.
are very
but where's the guy? The other dude?
okay.
Oh, man.
Hands and you get a little connector in there.
Mhm.
Wait,
If
is
one
she,
can
I'm sorry, is
complete,
she wearing a
it might
shirt that
need to
says
complete itself,
spiritual
okay, that sort
gangster?
of thing. And
Probably.
the third strand then comes from that. When we get the third strand of DNA, then you've got a true three-way entanglement. And you can do a lot more with that than you can with just two.
Was that some of the junk
He's talking
DNA?
about like how you're going to get a third
Is that
strand
they
of
call
DNA.
junk? It wasn't junk.
None of it is junk DNA, but that's what they call it.
Exactly. I mean, I know none of it's junk, but that's what they said. That's what they called it.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay.
Some
If
scientists
Kobe-
got junk for brains.
Yeah. If Cobra isn't very truthful in his updates, should we even pay attention to him? Especially when mass meditations are scheduled?
There's nothing wrong with
Mass
meditations.
meditations.
Yep.
If you can project
Dear
the
God.
feeling of let's see here, peace, love, understanding, serenity, things of that nature, then a mass meditation would be the thing to do.
Yeah, I understand that there are monks in
Okay, so to keep in mind, this is a guy that was at one time co-opting patriots.
It just sounds like a new age
Yeah, it's like that's what he does now.
thing. I think a lot of them do, right?
It's like where he ended up. He took his grift over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're quite an interesting crew. But I often wondered where he got the idea for the the same idea, right? The idea of the militia, because there were actual real militia people that came on his show, like Rick Light. He's the leader of the Texas militia or something like that, right? And he was on there, and I've talked to the dude before, so I know he's for real. And actually, one of the strategies was to get Drake to go on the Josh Tolley show, and because Josh Tolley at the time had a really great radio show. I'm sure he still does, but it was gaining popularity in the Liberty scene. Like he was coming up the ladder because he was a Ron Paul guy, and so a lot of people were listening. And I actually had talked to him a few times, and I brought up bringing this guy on because this guy's talking about these mass arrests, right? And like all this stuff's supposed to happen. And so I got people to start chattering at him, go on Josh Tolley, go on Josh Tolley. And so he actually addressed it, and he said, I will go on as long as I could have my own link on my own side. He made it impossible, right? So like he basically hacked it so that he, well, I have to have my own in case he'll go back and put something over what I'm saying, I'm like, okay, you're using that old defense again, right? It's like, okay, just make it impossible to do it. But the guy, Rick Light, the militia guy, did go on his show. And he just I think he just grifted on in because Drake presented himself as a militia guy, and he probably came on in and was poking around and said, well, all right, so you're screwing around here, but if you give me the opportunity to talk good about the militia and recruit people, then I won't blow your grift. I mean, I think that may have been what happened. I have no idea though. I mean, I can't explain it any other way because Rick's not a dumbass, and he, and Drake wasn't a militia guy, so but he definitely was a vet. I mean, that's been determined. He is a Vietnam vet, and maybe he did try to start a militia at one time, but it's you can tell by the website it was just him. He never did anything.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, it's just a website. So anyways, the original Q, right? So this is the original Q. So in documentary, like what was your whole experience with that? Where do you stand on all that today? And you say that you don't think that like that'll happen again. Well, what's another similar maybe mechanism or use for the same type of tactics? Like, I mean, we see there's a historic pattern of bottling people up and trying to push them in a certain direction, right? But what do you think that the next thing they're going to do with this this type of understanding and the upcoming election?
I don't actually know. I don't think that anything happened. So, that's my thoughts on that. Nothing happened. And, I don't know. I don't know what the how or whatever, what their plan would be. I don't know. You know, I feel like I'm just not really interested in that. I don't know how else. I just am not. It's not something that concerns me, I guess. And I don't see it as being. I don't see things aligning like they did in 2017. You know, where you had like this. In 2017, it was a unique circumstance because you had a lot of new people coming online, like getting online for the first time and actually getting involved because they felt like, oh, it'll actually be different this time, you know? And I think that kind of like that interest, that energy kind of fueled a lot of this. And I just don't think it's there anymore. So I don't know.
That's good news. I mean, that's good news because, like, you know, you're a lot closer to the second version than I was, and I mean,
I wasn't close to it though. Like I saw the posts and followed them like everybody else, and I did see Donald Trump, you know, signaling them, and I think everybody knows that he still does it. He still like shares that stuff. So I don't know, like, why wouldn't you believe it if he obviously was signaling to it? You know, that the only implication there is that, you know, he is part of it. Right?
I don't see that.
Or that he believes that like it helps him, you know, for whatever reason.
It's really sort of marketing or something.
Maybe it's
like
a
that.
marketing thing. Yeah, right.
Like a, you know, like a little, like, maybe he thinks I don't know. Maybe he thinks he's supposed to signal back, like, you know, like someone's signaling at him. Like, but I you know, what I've realized about him and the whole situation is his information stream got narrowed very quickly, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. I mean, he wasn't as privy to like all the information that like, okay, so like when he got elected, right? He had a lot of streams of information coming in from a lot of places. He was on everybody's side. He was friends with Alex Jones, all kinds of things like that, right?
Oh, okay,
and so he was open to a lot of different information. And then as they started closing his ability to see outside of Fox News and other places where they can just kind of feed him information. And so he didn't have a good purview. And this is like the rock star syndrome, right?
It's the handlers thing, right? Like you get all these handlers around you.
You got so much shit coming at you at once. You need to have some kind of management system, right?
Right. I mean, he's got a massive corporation, you know, a massive probably team around him of people. And then you probably have people that want to like latch on to you or whatever, or like rift off.
How many hours in a day?
Yeah. Right? And so think about how many people like that he has to deal with on like a regular basis. I don't know.
Family.
And then you have people like in his family that maybe work against him, you know, people like Kushner, or whatever.
His own agenda. Dude, I'm telling you, it's rock star disease. Like, if you've ever been around a rock star, someone who's made it in music, right? All of a sudden the world changes, and the world changes because everything's on you. It's your shit. So everything's coming at you from 100 different directions. You got the management, you got the publisher, you got the next thing, you got the creative work, you got the tour, you got the people that work for the tour, you got the people that are on the tour, you got people that are, you know, then you have this fan drama, then you have
a machine behind you, like an apparatus.
It never stops. And you're still trying to create music.
Right.
You're still trying to be the artist.
I think the other thing too is that he was in a situation where coming in as sort of like an outsider, which he was, even if he is a wealthy person, you know, it's obvious that he's not one of them, or for whatever reason. Well, and I think that part of it is his unpredictability, you know, because they're still ass mad about him, you know, and so that's why. And I think that for him, he wanted to probably be really careful about who he let in or who he was listening to, and he probably didn't trust people. And there were probably a lot of people that took advantage of him and betrayed his trust or whatever, or just tried to grift off of him. But I think that what his thoughts were, and Obama did something similar when he first took office, was, I'm coming in as an outsider and they're going to make things really difficult for me. I have to hire people who can help me grease wheels and like make the transition easier, that they're going to try to be difficult. So I think he surrounded himself with some very snake-like people, because like it or not, those are the people who'd been in the Beltway and had been in the system, you know, and around it. And you need their knowledge on certain things. You have to have them around at certain times. But I think that what ends up happening too, when you get in that situation, is like, you're the one that has to make the decisions, nobody else. You're the person who's in charge. And I think that what ends up happening for some people, in their paranoia, they want to get rid of people that are suspicious or whatever. But I think people end up surrounding themselves with yes men and people that don't really contradict them and aren't giving them like the information they really need. You know what I mean? They're like appeasers. They're like, oh yes, you're right. Oh yeah, that's totally a great tweet to send, whatever. And they're not telling you the truth. They're just telling you what you want to hear to keep you happy and to try to like handle you. I think that was a big problem.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
of course, for the information that they control and they filter, these people also act as gatekeepers. They're controlling who gets to come in, who gets to meet with you, who doesn't, who gets a seat at the table, who doesn't. And so you have all of these barriers in place of people that are supposed to handle all this other shit, scheduling, whatever. And those people are making decisions, that eventually
Right. He's trusting people to get
he
stuff
has to
done and do
take
it the right
advantage of
way.
that. Yeah.
He's put a
And
lot
so
of
I
faith
think
in
that
people
was a
he should put
huge
faith in.
problem of him, though, thinking that he could kind of come in and make deals with these people. Oh, if I give them a position in the White House, in the administration, maybe they'll come around, right? I think that he believed he could kind of like just please people by giving them things. If I give them something, they'll be grateful and loyal to me. Of course, that's not going to happen, but I think he actually did believe it. That would happen.
That's why he had to learn the hard way, I guess, because.
And that's why you saw his administration change so much too, I think. And I think that there were a lot of people that wanted to prevent him from being able to really have conversations with regular people. I was actually surprised at a recent rally he did where he just said, let's take questions from the audience. And I was like, interesting. That's a good thing. Someone should have told him to be like doing that, in 2020 or whatever. That's the
he
kind of
killed
thing
it with fireside chats. If he had,
oh my God, right?
Dude,
there's so many missed opportunities.
You want to do a fundraiser, dude? I'd have super chats.
But I'll tell you what, though, I still think that like he's probably, the best chance we have.
Dude,
like,
I mean,
there's nobody else. Who else? What's the other option?
We need to let the bull run one more time and finish the job. I mean, that's fair enough, right?
And I think too with Trump, he listens eventually. It takes him time, but like I think he eventually starts to listen. And I always thought that was interesting about him, unlike some of these other people that are more controlled, they're professionally handled. They don't run their own social media. You're never going to see them like talking to common people. I feel like he's the kind of person that probably would like to talk to common people. But that's just me. I could be wrong. I don't know.
No, absolutely.
That's my perception.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And there's a lot of things I'm mad about though, too. Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you say anything about Ashley for 6 months or whatever? Why not on your way out pardon these people that are now political prisoners? Yeah,
there's some of that too, and like who knows, man, like who knows how that all went down. Maybe he felt some pressure. The whole thing that went on was probably just blowing his mind. And I couldn't imagine being in that position where you're having go on the way out feeling powerless after getting kind of like not being, you thought you had it under control and it wasn't under control. Like you just tell the information. The same with the way the whole like thing. I said when he got elected, I said you got to do 3 things to get reelected. You got to fix the election system so they can't.
Yes. Oh my God. Why was that not a priority? What happened? I thought
that should have been number 1.
Wasn't there like an executive order in 2017 and like nothing happened?
He talked about it the whole time too. Yeah, he talked about it the whole time.
Never brought up again.
The other was you have to take care of the problem with the mainstream media and censorship, because otherwise you're going to silence all the people that are getting the message out for you, right?
Yeah.
You're going to end up creating a system where they have the control of all the narrative, right? And he didn't do anything about that, so let that go, right? And so
Yeah.
that, you know, these are the things that he needed to take care of in order to get reelected. And he didn't do it, so that didn't happen. So hopefully he learned. I want to see the comeback story. I want to see part 2. I want to see how it ends. And
Everybody
you
likes
know,
that, right?
yeah, right. You know, like
Um,
Rocky's getting off the mat, dude. This
I
is
don't
like
know.
Rocky 2.
It's like, yeah, America's next top president. Let's get into it. The reality
Right?
show presidency. There is something kind of funny about that too. You know, just the idea of having like a reality show person like running things. I think that's kind
Right.
of hilarious.
Well, you know,
Much better than
they
Hillary
presented
Clinton. That's
they
for sure.
presented the idea, and I want to shift to the one more topic because I know that we're running short on time, but
Yes.
I wanted to but I wanted to close that by saying, you know, the way that they I was going to say the way that they presented the president during his term and then during Biden's term, right? It's like he looked like the president was like had no power, couldn't do anything, it was completely stifled. They presented that image, right, of like a powerless president almost. And then
Yes.
and then with Biden, it's like almighty, and everybody knows he ain't doing shit. It's like, you know, everybody knows he's being handled. Like, oh, he's being handled. There's people doing this for him, that for him, that for him. You know, nobody gives him credit for anything, but they present him like he's the man. He's the
Oh
one
my
who's boss
God,
man.
right? He's not even
Yeah.
like lucid. And no, we all know like he's not making any of the decisions there. I don't think anybody believes that.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the transition here. I wanted to get back to talking about your documentary,
Thank
right?
you.
That you're kind of coming out. And also now look, I heard that you recently had some issues with some people giving you all a hard time. And we're no strangers to this kind of stuff around here. So but you know, if you're comfortable talking about it, I'd love to talk about that topic. And get some insight into that, because I just couldn't figure out why the hell anybody want to mess with you. I was looking around. I was like, well, I don't see what did she do? Is it the bankers? No, it's not the bankers. It's like there's a few people. I don't know. Is it few people? I don't know. Is it the the feds? I have no idea. I was like, well, who the hell would be bugging her like that and doing that kind of like low level troll stuff, you know? So
I'm always being harassed on the internet. Oh my gosh.
why who's picking on you and why? Point 'em
Everybody
out.
is picking on me. Just kidding. I actually because it's the internet, I go into some of like these cesspools of the internet. I wade into the, you know, the weirdo waters. I get into fights with people all the time on the internet, constantly, because I'm the kind of person that like I'll just say what I think, you know, and if I think that you're, you know, a scumbag, I'm gonna say it, you know. So I don't know. Sometimes I come off like sometimes people don't like me, you know. But
Is that all it is? It's not associated with anything, the work you're doing? Or you
no.
any kind of
I'm
weird
sure it
groups?
is. I just mean what I mean to say though is like my entire history on the internet has been filled with like me fighting with people back and forth, people, you know, trashing me. It is what it is. It doesn't really bother me. What does bother me is when it is escalated to levels that I think are inappropriate, like doxing was one of them that
Right.
I think is unfair. And then, you know, other things. I don't want to talk about, though, some of the tactics that have been used recently, because I'm not going to give anybody the attention that they so desperately desire. It's just part of the work, you know.
Yeah,
I
it
think
seems to be.
I think I know what you're referring to.
Sure, I'm just trying to, you know.
Misappropriation of law enforcement to target somebody you don't like because they say things you don't like on the internet. That's what we're talking about. But yeah,
Right, it's a big problem.
Yeah, it's a big problem. It's very dangerous. People can get killed when these things happen. So I've had that happen to me 2 times in 3 days, once at 4:30 in the morning. But I don't think it's actually because of any fight I've gotten into on the internet. I couldn't think of any real drama I've had with people that hasn't been hashed out by us calling each other names until, you know, like, and then just like
Good old name calling.
Yeah, or just like ignoring each other. I mean, I've had back and forth with, like, do you know who the Groypers are?
The who?
You know Nick Fuentes, like the Groypers, American
Oh, those guys,
guys.
huh? I've heard. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so the Groypers don't like me because I'm a woman on the internet. You know, can you believe I'm not in the kitchen? But they don't like me also because I won't bow the knee to their gay leader. You know,
With that
I
kid?
don't. Yeah, the kid,
was-
the 24-year-old who they think is going to be like a future president because they think he's big, smart,
Right.
because he can monologue for 5 hours straight talking about himself. It's just narcissism, you know. That's just
Right.
grandiose
Another dividing group.
narcissism. He's not
No, it is.
incredibly intelligent. I've listened
They're
to
all
this
over it.
kid debate since Charlottesville, and I don't think he's particularly smart. I think he
No.
just talks a lot. He has like a high verbal acuity, you know, but he's not really saying anything of substance. There's a
see
lot
about
of
that.
like vapidity. And then they do things like that though to people they don't like. They'll give you a false DMCA strike, or they'll SWAT you or whatever.
It's just it's the old troll tactics from way back in the day that Monty and the gang way back they perfected it back around the
Ethan
turn
Ralph
of-
does this
yeah.
too. His fans, he doesn't like me. Who else? There's just so
The
many
Legion of
people.
Injustice.
I
They're
guess
everywhere.
I have offended, but I supported the Groypers when they did the Groyper Wars back in the day, when they were showing up to college campuses and they were asking questions to people like Charlie Kirk, you know, to Turning Point USA events, and saying like things like, you know, how does gay sex help people win the culture war? I supported that. I thought that was a good thing. But then they turned into like this weird anti-woman thing. And I'm like, okay, I don't put up with that. But so in my videos where I've kind of made fun of them or whatever, they've never come after me that way. They just call me like an e-girl or whatever. And then it is what it is. But like, I've never been swatted because of it. So when the swatting happened, I don't think it's related to that, because I haven't argued with those people recently. And when I did, they didn't do it. So I think it's more related to my documentary, but I can't be sure. You never know.
Interesting, man. That's interesting. Wow. It's you know, it's just evidently you struck it over somebody because you know, I mean, in all fairness, they should just, you know, it's a documentary, right? It's
Yeah.
just it is what it is. It's gonna happen, and then
Well,
you know,
the
you didn't do it.
The
make your
Whitmer
own.
thing, though, I mean, that was a big deal for them. Like the government is really mad that they didn't completely win that case, and that 2 people were acquitted that weren't supposed to be. They really wanted this thing to be a thing, you know. As much as they wanted it to be a thing, it never was a thing. As much as they pushed for it, they had to frame people because they couldn't get, you know. That's why it's an issue calling it entrapment in some cases, because entrapment implies that you did commit a crime. You were just tricked into doing it by cops. You were entrapped into committing a crime. Framed is different. Framed is when there was no crime. Gretchen Whitmer was never kidnapped. You know, it never happened. They said they were conspiring to do it, but you can't show where anyone agreed to do it, and you can't show any furtherance of the conspiracy. Like, it just doesn't exist. You have guys that got drunk, smoked weed, and then FBI informants elicited offensive statements from them. That's literally it. That's all they have. You know, the FTXs, the field training exercises, hosted by the government, paid for by the government, the people that were running them, you know, the XO that led their defensive training, their militia training, government informant, working for the government. So the government trained these guys. And all it was, though, was defensive training. It was, you know, like any other militia group, you had a group of guys that would get together. They would do firearms, defensive firearms training, medical training, some kind of prepper, you know, prepper type things. That's all it was. But the FBI had informants there that would get people drunk and stoned, like kind of sitting around a campfire, and then get them to say things like, hypothetically speaking, when would it be okay to use force? And then take that response, play it out of context at trial and say, wow, listen to how violent he sounds here. He's a really bad guy. He's dangerous. You should convict him. Even though we don't have any evidence that there was an actual conspiracy, listen to what he said. Doesn't he sound scary? Doesn't he sound mad? He sounds mad,
Yeah,
doesn't
dude.
he? You should convict him and throw him in a cage for the rest of his life. Because what? Like, you got somebody drunk and they said, yeah, screw that, that BITCH, we're going to go fly her over the lake on a kite. Oh, sound the alarms, let's get the federal government involved. They're going to fly her over the lake on a kite. That's very realistic, right? A real credible stuff there.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was
that's not
literally
influenced by anything at
They
all.
actually played that clip in court of,
Oh,
one of these guys drunk.
they bring in a scientist to
slurring
prove that
their
you can actually do
words,
it.
and it sounds
Oh, you
like
need a
they're at a bar. You can hear like music playing in the background, and it's like, is this at a bar recording? And they're like, that bitch Whitmer. It's like, what is happening? And they're not allowed to do that, by the way. It's completely illegal. So anyways, the government has a 99.9% conviction rate. Even if you're innocent, it doesn't matter. These rights that you think that you have that are very cute, you don't have. Like, you don't have things like due process. You don't have the right to a fair and speedy trial. You don't have those rights. Like, you're not presumed innocent until proven guilty. Were the Whitmer guys, are the J6 people? No. They've already been found guilty of thought crimes, and now they're just creating kangaroo courts. That's all it is. That was evidenced from the Whitmer case and many others, So it's just very bad, and they're mad about it. They were livid when the first trial came back with not one conviction. Their first trial, they had 4 defendants. So there were 6 initially. 2 took plea deals. They were coerced into taking them. It's neither here nor there, though. And the 4 that did go to trial, at the first trial, not one conviction. 2 men were acquitted and found completely innocent by a jury. And then the jury declared a mistrial on the other 2. So 0 convictions. And when the news came in of that, they were mad as hell, right? Like, this is an embarrassment for the Department of Justice, for the FBI. The DOJ called this the most important DT case in a generation. Gretchen Whitmer went up and did this press conference and said that she was endangered, and that Trump made her a target. These people were not Trump supporters. She was never in danger. She was never a target except by the FBI, who were planning this thing and trying to get people to go along with it. So, yeah, they were very mad about that, though. And then they retried Adam and Barry to get them convicted in a completely controlled kangaroo court. Where, a lot of the evidence the jury was prevented from seeing. They weren't allowed to hear about the misconduct of the 3 lead handling agents. And the way that they did it was like, so the government knew what the defense was going to be because of the first trial. They knew what their arguments would be, and they could deflate some of the, revelatory nature of like, hey, you used more informants than you had defendants in this case. Why did you have over a dozen informants, and why are they the ones running everything, plotting everything, introducing people to each other? This is wrong. And I think that for the government, they realized if the truth about what they did here comes out, people are going to question every other case. They're going to say, if this is how you do things, this is like normal for you, this is completely corrupt, and this entire institution needs to go away. So they're very mad about that. And it would not surprise me if the issues I've been having lately are connected with that. I mean, I know for a fact, like Adam and Barry are being punished right now for participating in the documentary. So they were the two guys that were convicted in the retrial, which was worse than the first trial. And I had been interviewing them while they were in Newaygo County Jail in Michigan. And I got statements from them. Like, if you could get a statement to the weaponization committee, what would you tell them for, you know, make your case for why they should investigate the weaponization of the FBI in your case to frame and entrap you? And I recorded their statements to the committee and I put them out and published them. An article was written about Barry's statement, and the next day, Adam and Barry were both moved to different Supermax prisons, and I can no longer speak to them. When Barry had his sentencing hearing and he was sentenced to 20 years in prison, they brought up his participation in my documentary. The prosecutor, Nils Kessler, quoted quotes from my interviews with Barry to say he is completely radicalized. You know, he's talking to the media. He hasn't taken responsibility for being framed by the FBI and just said that he did something he didn't do. Oh, well, you know, so now he needs to be punished even more. That's what's happening. Right now, Adam is in Florence, Supermax, and Barry is in Terre Haute.
Man.
And it's a really dangerous situation. Those prisons are designed for killers. So you have to understand Adam has no criminal record. He's never done anything. He's never been in trouble before. He's never been in jail, never even been in a fight with anybody. To send somebody like Adam to the Florence Supermax is just cruel, and it's kind of insane. They should be in a low max prison. These are not dangerous criminals. They were not engaged in violent crime. They didn't commit a violent crime. You know, you can't just do stuff like this. It's unprecedented and it is unheard of. But this is what's happening. And we don't know what else is happening, but it's obviously political. You know, they're being punished because they're political prisoners, basically.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, the lengths they would go to, and it's like, this is the whole move from remember when it used to be the jihad, the Islamic terrorists we had to like worry about, and it was like that. Those are the ones they were setting up. They would just find people that were like, you know, low capacity and not understanding, or maybe even drugged out or whatever, and they would like just put something on them and sending them into an environment and have it then foil it and say they did it. You know.
Yeah.
That it's just a continuation. It's because, you know what, we all see it. It happens around us, and we don't know how to, or don't take the right people, don't take the right steps to stop it and start, you know, creating a culture where we don't allow this to happen. So corruption festers and it grows.
That's right. You have a group of guys, you know, there were 13 men that were arrested, 6 charged federally, 8 charged in 2 different state cases for providing material support because you taught somebody how to tie a tourniquet, or you were in the wrong group chat, or you were associated with somebody that the FBI later framed as a DT. So it's like this guilt by association after the fact of, well, we framed them and we say they're bad guys and you were their friend. So we're going to now go through and say you provided material support to them because you taught the medical training, or you know, whatever. You let this person train on your property. So now you provided material support and you're going to go to jail for 15 years. That's happened with 3 other guys, Paul Bellar, Pete Musico, and Joe Morrison. They had a separate state case where they were all tried and convicted for that. And again, literally there's no crime here, nothing. And we have 5 other men all charged with the same thing in a separate state case in Michigan that will be going to trial this summer. One of those guys took a plea deal because he believes, after what he saw on both with the first state case and the federal case, that there's no chance this is going to be a fair trial and that he has no other choice but to take a plea deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what the documentary, when do you plan on having it out, and where can people find it?
So right now, the documentary is halfway done. I'm still fundraising for it to complete it. You can see under my name here the letter K and K film.com. It's the documentary is called Kidnap and Kill, an FBI Terror Plot, and I didn't want to register a website called kidnapandkill.com. Because then the FBI will really
go wrong.
get me. They'll go, "Oh, we finally got her,"
Right?
I'll be like with Adam and Barry tomorrow in Florence Supermax. But so I just did kandkfilm.com. So it's really easy, guys, and you can go there right now. It redirects to my fundraising page. And you can see the links to all of the social media, the official social media accounts for the documentary. You can find the official YouTube channel there where you can go watch the trailer for the documentary that I'm super, super proud of. So right now, there's a lot going on with Adam and Barry, and we're trying to.
Can we play it?
I have to complete. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Well, it's a little late for me. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You
worries.
can play it at the end. You can end the show by playing it.
Okay.
Okay.
So just go to that website, right?
Yeah, because it is. Okay, play it real quick. It's only a couple. It's only like 2 minutes, and then we'll. This is really cool though. That you can see from the trailer that like we have. Basically, we know where we're going with this, but there's just so much. I still have to travel to like 5 or 6 other locations and interview other people. And the other situation is like, while the documentary is on hold, as I have to travel and fundraise and stuff like that, we have Adam and Barry in these Supermaxes. They're both appealing their cases right now, and their lawyers haven't been able to talk to them. They're new appeal lawyers. So what's happening here is very dangerous, and we need to try to get them out in the meantime. So I've got multiple things I'm doing right now associated with this case.
No doubt. Man. Busy. All right, here we go.
Earlier today, Attorney General Dana Nessel was joined by officials from the Department of Justice and the FBI to announce state and federal charges against 13 members of 2 militia groups who were preparing to kidnap and possibly kill me.
We're grateful to the FBI and law enforcement who discovered these domestic terrorists and stopped them. It's the sort of behavior you might expect from ISIS.
You might see a number that high in a sprawling narcotics conspiracy that stretches from coast to coast and beyond. That's a pretty high number in a case like this. It really reflects, I think, how deeply the government has been diving into this investigation to try to make these cases.
It was just literally a bunch of working class guys who on the weekend got together and, exercised their rights and trained with firearms. So the FBI says, hey, we'll just pay for everything.
Who arranged the meeting? The FBI's paid provocateur. Robeson was getting paid to set this stuff up.
So they make the route, they set the locations, they make the plan, they do everything, and Adam's literally just sitting in the basement of a vacuum repair shop smoking blunts all day.
You're going to hear that my client was the leader of this group. But I think you're also going to hear that there was an election held to identify the leader, and it was Dana.
How can I frame this social situation to make this naive person appear to be a dangerous, violent terrorist? The whole goal was for the FBI to spend millions of dollars to create militia groups, record them saying offensive stuff, and then frame them in a fake conspiracy.
Cool. I'm gonna see it. That's well done. Well done.
Okay,
Yeah,
so yeah, that the gentleman that was speaking there explaining what the goal of the FBI was, that's Brandon. That is the man who spent 18 months in prison and had his life destroyed because quite literally he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He met a group of people online, said, oh yeah, I want to, learn defensive firearms training. Because remember, it's 2020. We have the summer of love happening, right?
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, I need to learn how to defend myself because law enforcement, the cops aren't going to do it, right? Sometimes they don't even respond. So I don't know if you know this.
You always got to take
the
the time into consideration what was going on at the time and what was.
Yes, you have to put yourself in the context of this. It's like you have the summer of love. Grand Rapids was one of the cities that saw bad riots and looting and stuff like that, and they watched people get pulled out of vehicles and beaten, and police not show up, not respond. And so, on top of that, she was doing, Whitmer, these unconstitutional lockdowns where she was literally shutting down small businesses. One of these guys that got charged of providing material support in the state case, Paul Ballar, I think, I believe it was him, his girlfriend, her restaurant, her family's restaurant was forced to close. And I think they ended up losing their business. He ended up getting evicted because he couldn't work and pay his rent. So you had these people that were in these vulnerable situations, and it's a really crazy time. And you're in an online chat group. Someone says, hey, this group does training. You can go train with them. They'll teach you defensive firearms training, medical training. Brandon doesn't know that when he goes and attends his first training in July of 2020, he is walking into an active FBI terrorism enterprise investigation. So that's their highest level. It's like the FBI is the full resources of the FBI are devoted to this. So millions of dollars are being spent. You have multiple various FBI field offices all working together. So you have to have somebody that's higher up in DC that is overseeing that coordination between these various field offices. So there's a lot involved in this stuff. But for Brandon, he goes and attends his first training in July, walks into an active TEI. He is arrested in October. He only meets these guys 3 times, and they say he's a member of the Wolverine Watchmen. He was never a member of that militia group. He literally just showed up to a few events, didn't know these people, didn't really even know any of his co-defendants. And so it's really crazy when you start looking into the details. And I've seen his paperwork. The FBI didn't even open an investigation into him until August of 2020. And all of these guys get arrested October 7th of 2020 because they had to do this October surprise right before the election. And so that's amazing to me. And by the way, there doesn't have to be probable cause for the government to investigate you. You all think that you have to do something there's got to be a reason, a legitimate reason for them to open an investigation into you. No, I've seen the FBI's paperwork for their opening their investigation into Brandon. They're literally just saying, well, these are his political beliefs. And he said this online, and he reads these books. And it's this is literally what half the country thinks. It's amazing to me. And they're oh, and then, he showed up here. So he showed up to a place and he has ideas we don't like. Throw him in prison for life. It's amazing.
Right?
The government even tried to argue through one of the guys that they forced into taking a plea deal. They tried to get this guy to say, Brandon was there at one of these events he wasn't at. And Brandon was able to show that he was at work that day. And so it just makes you go, what? The government will lie. They'll just flat out lie under oath on the stand. No one got the guy that took that plea deal, who lied and said Brandon was there, and then they could show he was actually at work. Did that guy get charged with perjury for lying? No. Did the federal government? No. And this is just throughout the whole case. I'm going to go off on a tangent. I'm sorry. I'll let you end the show. I will spend 5 hours spiraling and spurging about this. So
okay, so let me ask you a closing question here then.
Yeah.
What what are the solutions, man? We like to talk about solutions here. What are your solutions? What do you see as the root cause issues and the root cause solutions, and how do we go about happen?
Well, unfortunately, the root causes is a concentration of corruption inside these agencies. You have institutional capture, institutional rot. You have agencies that are incentivized financially, or these agencies have quotas put on them, right? So like I interviewed an FBI whistleblower, Steve Friend. He got fired because he wouldn't participate in the J6 tactical raids because he thought it was uncalled for and wrong. But he told me that inside the FBI, they have quotas, that are enforced from the top down. You need this many DT cases. You need this many racially motivated, whatever. Like they have these quotas that they enforce, and people get promoted based on like how well they are able to give these people the numbers that they want, right? Or if they have a high profile case, they get rewarded for that. So the guy that was head of the Detroit field office overseeing the Whitmer case, where we know people were entrapped and framed, he got promoted to be head of the DC field office. He was running it on the day of J6. His name was Stephen Duantuono. All right. So they get promoted. There's a financial and a professional incentivization for the FBI and agencies like that to create and manufacture the thing that they get paid to protect us from. There has to be a threat, or you don't need the FBI, and they need to expand their budgets every year, apparently. You had Jason Chambers, one of the FBI agents in the Whitmer case, who was using the case to profit financially via his private intelligence company, Exa Intel. So that's a problem. I don't know how you fix that. And it isn't like Sean Hannity says, oh, it's just a few bad apples in DC. No, sir. It is all of them. It is the rank and file. It is how they're trained from day one. It is also, interestingly enough, why in the Whitmer case, so they didn't call the 3 lead agents who ran the investigation because each of them were so dirty. If they did go on the stand, they'd immediately be destroyed. So the FBI sends in agents that weren't even really involved in the case to testify at court. And the agents that they sent were people who had only been at the FBI for like 1 or 2 years. So those people don't really know better, but they're trained from the beginning to see things in a certain way, right? In a way that is preferable to the FBI. They have a mindset.
Well, I think you said it though.
A worldview. Yeah, and
I think you said it. You said it. The solution here is to get rid of the quotas and revamp that system, because that removes the incentive for the corruption, right? To set things up for no reason. And the way you fight corruption, I believe, is you remove the enablement of it. So you don't ever attack corruption head on. You undermine it by removing its enablement.
That's
right?
a good point. Like the mechanisms that allow it to thrive, right? Which is like operating in the dark, no accountability, no transparency. They don't have to be, there's nobody watching them, basically. And they're never held to account.
Well, what holds up that structure, right?
Yeah, they use national security as a shield. With litigation or trying to obtain documents from them from FOIA and stuff like that, so they can prevent people from really looking into what they're doing. And, we really haven't had a lot of information about what the CIA and FBI have been doing since like the Church Committee hearings, which is interesting. So that's an issue. Accountability, transparency. There should be a declassification thing. After X amount of years, stuff automatically gets declassified. I don't want to hear anything about sources and methods and all this other bullshit that they use to justify hiding information, hiding documents.
That's all excuse to keep it going.
75 years later, we don't have the JFK files. Why? They were supposed to be released. They don't release them. You see how the game is played. So you have to remove, and I think a huge part of that is bureaucracy. Cut the bureaucracy. Move these areas out of DC. Okay, I live in the Beltway area. move their headquarters for all of these government agencies and offices, spread them out across the country so that the people that employ these agencies actually are representative of the people in this country, not just a small group of elites that are gathered in a tri-state area. You know what I'm saying? Spread it out more, make it, more fair.
It's a grift, man. I'm trying to figure out that what most of what's going on in this world is just people trying to protect their grift, man. It's like they're at all costs. It's just like that's what it is. It's like they're just keeping it going, and we've known these plots. We can say and so someone uses that grift, right, to keep their usefulness alive, right? They use that for their own grift. They say, oh yeah, well, look at these things that are happening. You need me for this, right? And they're kind of just building off of each other. So I think really it comes down to we have to get down and start removing all the different types of enablement that make them want to be there. See, you can build, if you build it, they will come, right? But if you turn off the power, they'll leave because it ain't no good anymore, right? So they're only going to be where they're inspired to follow whatever their core drive is. In most cases, that's just a drive for power, right? So either power or corruption of some sort. So in the sense of groomers, right? Like they want the unsupervised access to children. They want to be able to have a shield to indoctrinate them and to hand them from one to another, right?
Mm-hmm.
And their incentive to be teachers and to be in positions like that is because they can gain that there. When you take that away, like by saying putting CCTV cameras and microphones in every class, giving parents control and access of that.
Oh my God, right?
Yeah, when you remove the incentive for them to be there, they'll just stop taking the job.
That's a good point. Yeah, why don't we have cameras inside these freaking classrooms so we can see what these teachers are doing, what they're teaching? Also, why don't we have firearms in classrooms? Why don't we have armed teachers that could stop a
response
shooter or whatever? Yeah, like there's so many things we don't do that we could be doing. And then there's so many things we are doing that we shouldn't be doing. So I think it goes a long way.
But how many parents are sitting at home during the day and they could be donating a couple of hours to watching the cams in their classroom?
Oh, yeah. Or people that stay home, right? Or work from home or something like that. Yeah, I think that because I have a Christian worldview in mindset, I see people as fallen. And I think that they tend towards sin. Unless you're actively trying to struggle against that, I think that it's a natural state of humanity that is fallen. And I think that you can look back historically 6,000 years ago. It's the same thing that's been happening. You had people that were sacrificing children, and things like that. So I think that there's always going to be people that are bad and evil. And I do think that there is ontological evil out there. I think the existence of evil is obvious. And I think that tends to also show that the existence of God is obvious as well. And I just see it in little things too, like I don't want to spiral, but like synchronicities and stuff like that. I always feel like God reveals himself in numbers and little things in nature that you can see on the micro and then on the macro, right? So the holes in the part, you can I don't know. It's like a weird thing that I think is encoded in. Sounds.
No, I hear what you're saying. It's always.
It sounds woo, but I feel like there's
it's interesting to hear people's perceptions on it. And I hear you on the good and evil. It's definitely behind everything.
The universe and stuff, it's all inside you too, in the same and in the smallest part, right? So it's really hard to explain, but I think the smallest parts of us contain or can access all of the information there is out there in existence. I think God built it that way. And I think that the more you break things down, you find the same elements or the same things. And I think that's kind of weird. This is so spurgy and I haven't put it together yet to make sense, but I just feel nature reveals, God is revealed in nature. And I also think that as science advances, God is revealed more through that as well. And things technological advances, they're using us to model AI. They're trying to make AI with like actual human brain cells. They have these things called like
Well, it's like all computers are based on the human brain. It's all circuit to
yeah,
circuit. You know, it
yeah,
all is. And so
like
I think what AI is going to do, and I'll talk about this more on AI Tuesdays, right? So, but I think what AI is going to do is going to prove a case for like how humans actually learn. You see, the whole thing with the content and stuff that's going on, where they're saying that, you know, because they train the system with content that's out there, that it's not transformative when it mixes, it's derivative, right? And that's not true. The truth is that we all are transforming content constantly because we're
mhm.
learning from all the content around us, just like the AI does. It's taking everything in, we're taking everything in, right? We're transforming it into our own versions, putting our own touches on it based on our experiences and our condition and so on, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing. That's what the human being is. That's what free will is about. My opinion is that free will is our gift, our true gift in the third dimension here, and that we can take an idea, right, and we can create something material from that idea. That's the power
Yeah.
that human beings
So
have,
I think
right?
anything that you can conceive in your mind can manifest in reality. Like if you can
We
conceive it
can
and
bring
you
it
can
into
think
the
of
world,
it,
this world. Yeah.
you can make it real. Yeah, I actually believe that's true. And I also think that's why they use things like Hollywood and shit like that. I feel like that's part of it, right? Of controlling people's perception of what's possible. Like you know, oh, that's not possible because of physics or whatever, you know, like they create and enclose a box of like what's possible. So they limit your potentiality, if that makes sense, you know. In a way, because they limit like your worldview and what you could conceive as possible. If you can control like the input, you can control what the output's going to be. If you can narrow
Exactly.
and
That's why
limit
people can't
the input.
imagine that some of these worlds exist that we know about, right? They can't imagine a world where, you know, that Joe Biden does things with children on
Yeah,
stage.
where
They can't
things are
imagine. They can't even
different,
see
where
it.
people are
Yeah.
normal and like
Right.
nice and good and moral. But I think for solutions, a good part of it is, you know, I'm a big proponent of like localism and really focusing on what's inside your control. What can you control? You can control what you do. You can control yourself. So you can lead by example. You can be a good person, an ethical, moral person. You should treat people the way you want them to treat you. Which I think we forget a lot on the internet. If you don't have to see somebody's face, you can talk shit and you don't have to see how it affects them. You know, you might not say something, if you're in front of them in person, you might not say something that you would have no problem saying online if you don't have to see the person, you know, and you can be anonymous, right? Which was the fun thing about the internet, but it can be a bad thing as well. So I think that control yourself, what
Manage your free
know,
will, man. You make
yeah,
decisions.
like
Free will
you
is
can
what it's
control
all
what you
about.
choose to devote your life to or your energy to and give your energy to. I think it's super important what you choose to watch, consume, and listen to, because every single thing, even if you're passively consuming it or passively listening to it, it's still influencing you. It can influence your thoughts, your behavior. I think that, turn technology off at night. That's super important. But I think just focus on the things you can do. You can become somebody, that is trustworthy in your community, your local community. Get to know your neighbors. Prepare, for whatever's going to happen in yourself. But I also think that this translates and it
Could be as
scales
small as
out.
making little
If
things happen
you,
too. Yeah.
yeah, like if you live your life a certain way, other people are going to see that and they're going to want to do that too. If you're really joyful and happy and stuff like that, I think that's important. I think being a good Christian is important. I think localism is the solution to things like globalism and corporatism. Localism, get involved in your local community. I think that's a big, important part of solutions, and just try to be more self-sufficient and, independent so that you don't have to rely on other people or on systems and stuff. Learn to grow your own food, things like that maybe you take for granted, of like just knowing like where the things that you put into your body are coming from. That's
learn
so
you, learn
important.
what you do good, learn all the sides of you, because I didn't find my true career and like what I'm really good at until I just accepted all sides of myself, including my creative side and my technical side, and that made all the difference. So to get to know yourself too, that'll open up doors for you and
Yeah.
understand and just accept what it is. I mean, but I'm a craftsman and I'm this, you know, I'm an organizer, I'm organized, or I'm really good with numbers, and I also understand mechanics really well. Like, you know, just like whatever it is, it can
Mhm.
be a combination of things that make whatever you're going to do amazing, and put passion into what you do
Yeah,
as
and
well.
believe in yourself, you know? Nobody else is going to.
Yeah, inner faith is the key, because like inner
Yeah.
faith holds up all that who you are. Never stop believing that everything that's happening right now is, whether it's good or bad, it's for the right reasons, and it's leading you to the place you're supposed to be. And you keep that
Yeah.
faith, and you'll always have the self-confidence, the self-worth, the self-value, self-esteem to keep up, to get up every day and keep going no matter what hits you.
That's right. No matter what struggles you face, you know? I think that's a good thing. I think that's important. Yeah. I like that.
Absolutely. You know, I think that it's really just what we really are in, and there's a lot of different paradigms you can look at. I also say it's like the cluster B versus ADD in this world, and I also say that it's really just about light versus dark. Like, I think if you look at the way things are kind of built out, when you get here, you're born innocent, love, and light, right? Just
Mhm.
amaze the world and just like full of love and everything, and then
Yeah.
the world beats you down to who you are, right? But it's dimming that light that you were born with, and
Yeah,
I
try
think
to be more like children.
the trick to this I actually try to remember that everybody was a child. Like regain your empathy that you had when you were a
Yeah.
child. See
Yeah.
everybody as a child, like innocent love and light. We were all innocent love and light at one time. That's what we have in common. Never forget that. That's our most unifying point that we have, is that we
I
were
know.
all born innocent love and light. Remember
We're
that
all
feeling when we used
jaded
to
and
play
cynical
together?
now, but
We used to just play together. Remember that? We used to
we
play together.
we
Yeah,
didn't used to be.
just run around screaming, having fun.
I think that's why
That's real, man. That's
having
real.
kids is great too though, because they like
Yeah,
keep
it
you young. You
reminds
know,
you of that.
you get to be young again. Like my
Mhm.
daughter just turned 10 and I
Aw.
can't believe it. Right?
I have a
But
12-year-old, so yeah.
yeah, like kids are so interesting and they're so sweet and they're so innocent and pure in like the way that
Mhm.
they see the world, the way they see you, you know, and how like they'll love you unconditionally and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I think that yeah, that's really nice. And then it gets beaten out of them, you know, over time. But I think that's important. And it's kind
Exactly.
of like you get to be a kid again. You know, you're like,
You
oh
do.
yeah, re-experiencing. Like I remember
It
what it was
really
like
does.
to be 3
It can
and
bring life
to
back into your
be
life
silly
if you're
and
dark.
goofy. Yeah. Or
Yeah.
like to be in a home that is filled with laughter, you know, and
You know, what
joy.
if I often say, like, what if the thing is that we have to make it through this world, right? And we have to make it through with our light still intact, right? And everything here is about beating the light out of us and turning us into darkness. And that's the way you find your way home to what is, heaven and God and whatever. It's like whatever that is, where we came from. I got that idea off the idea that when people say we were made in God's image, that I think that it's to say in the animal form of the human form, that would be kind of ridiculous to me. Like, I thought of that as ridiculous,
Really?
right?
Oh, I don't
Yeah,
think
I think it's
so.
more of I think it's a spiritual image of God, because why would God need a human body anyways? He's not even here
He doesn't, but think
third dimension
about
on that.
this. God chose to incarnate and take on like the on human form. You know, he chose to humble himself and say, I will go through
Because we
your
have the gift of
experience.
Well, we have the gift, right? We have the gift of being able to come into the third dimension and create ideas. We can create here. The other dimensions aren't as creative as this one. This is the material one, right? So if you look at it from a science meets God perspective, right? And I'm not like really big on I'm not like some kind of like scientist religious guy, right? So I'm not like science isn't a religion to me, right? So I'm
Mhm.
saying that but I look at it and I kind of like I think of, okay, so if we can explain micro and macro, right? We can understand that there is a first, second, third dimension around us, right? The planes, the whole circumferences, and so on. We've proven this to ourselves over and over again. And then so we look at the third, and then we take a free will into consideration. Like, what makes a human more special than anything on this planet? And it's the fact that we can actually create. We can actually create things. And this might be
Mhm.
what's really unique about this experience, is that we can come here and we can actually bring things that from the ether, like ideas, right? That are older than people, right? That this float around out there for some reason. And we can bring them through ourselves and we can create something. We can create other people. We can do all kinds of creative things here. It's like a play world, right? But if we were in another dimension, that these things would not be as possible. right?
Yeah.
So it's the thing is like, this is what's special about this place. So what if God, right, to either being at the highest level or just trying to move itself to himself or whatever to the highest level, is comes through this dimension in such a way where the light, he has to take the light, pieces of himself, right, and put it through this world and to transfer it to another world. Or it's the opposite, like it's coming back to work out problems in this third dimension where things can be worked out, like the battle between light and dark, and like the kind of duality situations that we face all the time. Working these problems out as a way to understand better than the nature of life and what it is to be free of ultimate power.
I think, the other thing that is important, and this is, I want to leave it on this. I want to be my last thing that I say, because
Okay.
I think that this is really good, is just to think about too, you can always control your personal situation. Like you can control how you react to things, right? You can choose to be grateful for the things that you have. That is a state of mind. You can be a very wealthy person and not be grateful for any of the things you have. And you could be dirt poor and be super grateful. It just depends on you choosing to see things that way, from that perspective. You can choose to be happy. You can choose to be a positive person. You can choose to look at things in a different perspective, instead of like, look how hard everything is. I have to work so hard. Look at all these bad things that have happened to me. I'm so angry. It's so unfair. That's one, like, you choose to think that way, or you could choose to look at everything that has happened to you and think, wow, that really like made me a strong person. I'm so grateful I had that experience because it made me the person I am today. Like you could always choose
Absolutely.
to see things differently and frame it in a way that I think is more useful. And as far as like solutions, you don't come up with solutions from a place of like, lacking or anger or whatever, frustration, cynicism, being miserable like so many people are, or depressed. I think that you can kind of choose to see how you can choose to see things in a different perspective. And when you do that and you actually think about it, like it actually becomes real. So if you've ever had this time, like I'm sure everyone's had a time where they've been super depressed and sad. Do this then. Start trying to be happy. Try to do something silly that will make you laugh. Even if you don't genuinely like think it's funny at the time, just try to do something to change that. And as soon as you start trying to imitate feeling joy or happiness or whatever, it starts to become real. The more that you like spend time in that mental state, like you can make that a reality for yourself. So I think that's important too, like how you choose to see things and choosing to be like humble. I think that that's really what brings people happiness or like fulfillment. Yeah, be a happy warrior.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Because you don't know how long you have here. Your time could be very limited. So you should be grateful each day you're here.
Yeah,
Can
absolutely.
you guys hear that? My cat, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. This sounds very excited.
Lynn's there just like at the door. I gotta go get the
Let me
cat
get time
now.
to feed me.
She's telling me it's bedtime.
No, I totally appreciate it. And hey, I think that we could have a lot of great conversations behind talking about the second veil kind of stuff that we talked about earlier. And I think there's that would be a very interesting piece of work to do, just to kind of like bring that awareness to people about that whole experience of going from, one place to another and what to expect, what to look out for. I'm thinking of like preventative solutions in a sense of keeping people from falling into these holes and trying to unify us better and get us all on the same page when we leave the establishment narrative. But hey, thank you so much. Tell people where they can find you one more time. And I want to thank you so much for being here tonight. And I hope we can do this again soon. And do you ever have people over do you ever invite people over to your place?
I do sometimes, yes. Kitty, where are you going? Come on, come back. I was gonna pick her up so everybody could see her, but she
cool. Yeah, we do that.
She was just wandering around down here doing silly stuff. My channel is Radix Verum. You can find me on YouTube. Also, I have a website now, which is just radixverum.com, and you can find my documentary trailer there. I'm pretty sure you can find links to like most of my social medias there. So that's a good way, you know, it's just like a one place thing where you can go, just so you only have to remember one thing, Radix Verum.
There you go.
That's it.
Hey, I'm gonna be awesome. I'm gonna do. I know you probably got to go and get to bed, so I'll say goodbye to you now because I'm gonna we do kind of a long outro here and play a song.
Okay.
But I want to thank you so much. It's been great. I've had a blast, and
Aw, thank
it's been a
you.
great conversation. And I wish you the very best and everything, and the safest of
Thanks.
travels. And I hope that we can get together sometime in the near future and do another stream and have some better, have some more conversations, man. Because I think they're great, and we certainly got a lot of history in common as well. So.
Yeah, it sounds like
Yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. And hey, everybody, thank you so much for being here tonight, mods. You rock. I love you. I love you. I love you. You guys are the best. And hey, remember, dude, what's great about this channel is my memberships. I take them very seriously. If you decide to become a member of the Winner's Circle, you're gonna get new content all the time, special event invites all the time. You're ever on the Discord or watch-alongs and things like that, and one-on-ones, whatever. You know, it's all open once you become a member and you're in the Winner's Circle. So I promise to make that experience worthwhile in all forms. Of course, we got Rumble and we have YouTube. I'm supposed to have a video out tomorrow. I'm going to keep that down the road for quality purposes. I did put out a recap video instead, so that's out this week. And so the finale to LawTube is Getting Weird, the parody series about the Lawtainment universe, will be the following Sunday, April 1st. No fooling, I swear. It'll be there, and it'll be worth it. It'll be good. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll rock you on out of here. All right. Have a good one. Keep winning.
You were someone to see. You remember what you said. I know it may sound funny, but I ain't sure all the time. You cracking in the closet like a girl that did it all. Take our life.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good one. Catch you next time.